I hate like it does that, like it acts like it's still trying, and then you get farther than you ever got before. And then, oh, what's it doing now? I ain't seen it do this before. Did it actually make it on? I'll freak out. Irritating. We are live. Good deal. All right. So we're live. Okay. Took me forever to become live.
Is it actually live? Hang on.
Well, that's a good point. Mel's going to check if we're actually live. No restream bot came on. We should be live. So I think we are live.
Yes, you are live.
Perfect. All right. See if we can get the video started. All right. So welcome everybody to Emergency Management Associates tonight for the 3rd of March, 2020. And we are here tonight with an interesting show. We've got a lot of things to talk about. We've got a lot of things going on right now.
Hey, don't forget to push the general store.
Yes. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight. So we're going to kind of wait for people to get into the room and kind of get around. I'm going to open up the chat for everybody so I can see what you guys are all talking about tonight and what is on your mind. Like I said, this March 3rd, 2020. Ron isn't feeling well tonight, so he won't be here. So he asked me, Scarlet Anonymous, to take over for tonight, which I didn't have too big of a problem about. So with that being said, I am glad to be here, as well as I'm glad for everybody to be here. I'm just trying to quiet my phone here now because I don't want a bajillion messages coming through while we're on air. So with that being said, let me get the speaker started as well. It took me a minute to get everything started. We were having just the most interesting time getting the live stream started tonight. We tried it like 20 different ways, and then finally the last one worked. So we're here now. And so I didn't know if we were going to actually make it on air. So let me just get this, let's see, we're going to allow this to come through because we need to be able to use it. So we're going to get it live on Spreaker so all of our friends who use our audio version of the show will be able to tune in. So we're going to just put that really quick. So just hold on with me, you guys. I know it's hard in the beginning of the show, but just give me a second. We're going to talk about coronavirus tonight. We're going to talk about earthquakes. We're going to talk about a little Super Tuesday because it goes along with the Emergency Management Associates thing, and I'll explain why. It won't be super political, but I will explain why. We're also going to talk about Tennessee tornadoes that happened last night. Our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Tennessee. So we're going to have a jam-packed show tonight. As well as, while I'm just here getting this show started on the Spreaker, Mel wanted me to let you guys know we have a new feature, okay? If you go look at the Freedom Revolution Network store, the general store, so freedomrevolutionnetwork.com /general-store, I believe it is. Mel, help me out here. Are you listening? Maybe she's listening and she can help me out. Can you send me the link and then I can show everybody? Thanks. I can show everybody the link, and we're going to have this open for anybody. So if you're a seller out there who sells items, you could also list your ads in the Freedom Revolution Network General Store. It shows you how to sign up, what you get for your ads every month, and then you get to place ads much similar to a a classified site. So this is the 1.0 version of the general store. We're also going to have version 2.0 coming up here pretty soon, which will allow sellers to actually have people purchase right from the Freedom Revolution Network general store site. So that's exciting. All right, so we're live on Spreaker. We've got everything live. Oh, okay, here we go. Mel sent me the link so then I can open it. And then I can show all of you wonderful people out there what it actually looks like. So we're going to share the screen really quick. All right. Here is the Freedom Revolution Network General Store. So the Gen Store, so it's freedomrevolutionnetwork.com/GenStore. Okay, so very simple. And here you can see that we've added a few things. You can, click to post your ad. Here's the home site. Okay, so then you can scroll down and see that we have, filtration systems, which I have that Sawyer Mini, and it works for quite a few gallons of water. I think it's like 300 gallons of water or something like that. And it also has a way to pull it into a water bottle, or you can use it on a water bottle. So it'd be kind of nice if you didn't have anything else that you could squeeze a water bottle through it if you needed to filter really dirty pond water. Some masks, the elusive masks out there. Now, these are listings from Amazon. So if you guys want to get in on them, it might be a way to easily find some of these things that people are having a hard time to look at. Also, when you scroll down, this is the packaging and pricing for this, for if you are a seller. And you get 100%, right now you get 100% of what you see here. Okay, so no more, no less right now, but we're going to keep expanding. So if you guys have anything that fits into this, if you guys make health or beauty products, you make decorations, you do crafts, you knit, you crochet, you paint, think about it, because you could offer it to other members of the Freedom Revolution and see if they want to buy your things, because I think family usually likes to buy things first, right? You kind of put it out there to the people you know, and then after that you go from there. So with that being said, we're going to take that off, but I wanted to show you guys the new Gen Store so you guys can get used to that and use it. On there's also a tab for FRN sites where you can go back to the radio, news, social, or games very quickly. And then you're right back on the home page, ready to chat with everyone. So I'm going to go and do that. Like I said, I was going to go to the site chat, go check everybody out there. But I had a bunch of other things to do, and I wanted to make sure I even made it on the air. Like I said, Ron tonight is feeling a little under the weather. So he asked me tonight to come and do the show. All right. So I'm going to say hello, everyone. I'm going to go pop in real quick to the YouTube chat as well. I'm just going to go do that really quick. Go say hello to everyone on YouTube. Watch the chat go by. I enjoy talking to you guys. You guys teach me things every time I go into chat, and every time we speak with each other, and every time you guys are in there and willing to share. We learn so much from each other. And so I do appreciate that. So let me just pause this really quick because I don't want to hear all that. And as everybody, if you don't know, if you're new here, I am Clarity After Dark in the YouTube chat. I am Scarlet Anonymous FRN on the Freedom Revolution Network site chat. So come and talk to us. We enjoy talking to all of you. We enjoy all of your opinions. We enjoy what you guys have to add and offer to the program. So I do appreciate it. So, all right. So tonight, we've got lots of things going on. First, we're going to do a real quick check of the earthquakes. Oh, no, don't slow me down already. No. All right, we're going to check in with the VSCM, or the EMSC. CSCM, which is the website. So we're going to look at this really quick. A little bit of uptick in activity in Puerto Rico. Indonesia has a few earthquakes back to back in Papua and Kepulauan Aru region, which they're not too far from each other, but interesting, all 10 kilometers deep, which if you want to go with one of the last eruptions that happened out that way, one of their volcanologists said that 10-kilometer deep activity is magmatic in nature. It's just the way things work at that level of the crust. All right, so Indonesia looks like it has a pretty interesting uptick in activity, as well as, like I said, Puerto Rico. Myanmar had a 4.8 about 3 hours ago, as well as I'm sure Ron was on earlier talking about, you know, the 2.5, 2.9, Santa Monica, as well as the Southern California and Northern California kind of pinged off each other like a little bouncy ball. So, I mean, we haven't been seeing extreme numbers. There was a deep earthquake 6 hours ago in Indonesia, 266 kilometers deep, as well as in Oaxaca, Mexico. There was a 3.5, 126 kilometers deep. But that's about all I'm seeing for deep earthquake activity. Now, interesting to note that island of Hawaii has a little uptick. Also earlier, there was a -2 kilometer depth earthquake, which means that's going to be on the surface. So that's a surface quake. So we'll see if we're getting back at the time of year where the 2018 Kilauea eruption occurred. And I do believe that the way the earth cycles work do bring us back to certain parts of energy that could potentially play out again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because last year there were a few more upticks in earthquake activity, but never anything that was big enough to, you know, get anyone panicked or concerned even yet again, but something to watch nonetheless. Let me go just check to see what the USGS has got for their latest earthquakes. You know, they're usually, you know how we all feel about them here. I mean, we use them, they're a necessary evil. Do they really give us all the information? Probably not. So pretty much concentrated on the West Coast tonight is the only place we're seeing earthquakes. You've got a 3.6 in the Redwood Valley. You've got 2.5, Healdsburg, California. You've got a 4.0, 10 kilometers northeast of New Idria, California. I'm going to get the screen share up here in just 1 second. Bear with me. So, there we go. We've got a 2.7 north of Ridgecrest at 8.8 kilometers deep, as well as a 2.5 west-southwest of Manhattan Beach, California to 9.5 kilometers. So, you know, all, like I said, shallow quakes, very interesting, 10.9, 10 or less, all of them. Could that be magmatic activity? Possibly. All these places we do don't have earthquakes. So that's interesting. Also a nice swarm as well, Puerto Rico area. So it's interesting to see that it's pretty quiet besides those areas of the plate at this time. So that is my, yeah, and that's all we're seeing. That's all they're showing us. So it's interesting. That's what we've got for local earthquakes. Let's go check really quick volcano discovery. And we'll go see what the volcano action is today as well. See if we've got, you know, an uptick in volcanic activity that would make sense to why the seismic activity is kind of slowed down. I usually go to volcanoes today. And now we're on the 4th because in, you know, GMT time, we're already in the 4th. So we have Kluchevskoye, Semeru, Kerinci, Reventador, Sangay, and Novato del Ruiz, which all make sense. Considering where we're seeing the activity is kind of pushed in between. We've got it up here, makes sense where we're getting activity down in California because the plate is moving as well as releasing pressure up there. So we've got Kluchevskoye at Kamchatka, an eruption, flight level 230. Okay, we've got Semeru in East Java, Indonesia, which makes sense why Indonesia and Sumatra is moving around and having some activity because 2 of their volcanoes are going on. one at flight level 130, one at flight level 140. So 14,000 and 13,000 foot blast. Kluchevskoye, 23,000 foot blast. Nevado de Ruiz had a 20,000 foot blast. And Sangay in Ecuador also had a 20,000 foot blast. So those are substantial blasts, okay? When we had the 55,000 foot blast at Kluchevskoye and other volcanoes previously, those were some of the largest volcanic emissions we had ever seen in recent recorded memory, which should let you know that one that's half as strong is still extremely powerful, potent, still can affect, weather and other functions. So I do think that that's something to pay attention to. Not a lot of activity, but usually when we kind of see activity leveraged on one side of the earth and then the other, either it picks up, it kind of pushes against each other like a scale, and then we see seismic activity pop up along the way. So that'll be interesting to watch. I was going to go back to, and I didn't mean to actually hit that. I wanted to go back to technically yesterday, but which is still today. For the 3rd of March, which there was a lot more activity for the 3rd of March, which obviously was a full day. But you had Kluchevskoye and Kamchatka, 16,400 foot to 23,000 foot blast. Strombolian activity continues from the summit crater. Asosan, flight level 60. Kachina Arabajima had a 4,000. No. How do you have 4,542 foot blast? Hold on. We're going to have to click on this because that just cannot be correct. You can't have that. That is not how it works. Because that would be a 44,000 foot blast. Is that what they're trying to say? A 44,542 foot blast? Okay. All right. Well, that's some activity, and this makes sense why some of the seismic activity die-off we're not quite seeing, and we're only seeing it in a few areas tonight. Because, yeah, if that is a 44,000 foot blast, you're not going to see much, and we're also going to see effects of that 44,000 foot blast in the jet streams and in the actual weather models and activity. Mount Merapi went up at which rose approximately 20,000 foot blast in Indonesia. Yasur on Tanah Island of Vanuatu in volcanic ash plume was at 5,000 feet or flight level 50 and is moving 5 knots in northwest direction. Ruapu, North Island, they found amounts of carbon dioxide and sulfur gases have increased, which that's kind of concerning, North Island of New Zealand. Pupukate Patal, continued volcanic ash scene, 19,000 foot blast or flight level 190. Sangay, possible volcanic ash activity. Reventador, large volcanic ash cloud at 15,000 foot. And Sabancaya with 25,000 foot blasts. That's a lot of volcanic activity. That's a lot of volcanic ash going into the sky right now. I'd actually be interested to go to earth.nullschool.net to actually see what the CO2 emissions are right now, just because that is a lot of concentrated foot blasts. If that was all at one place, that'd be the biggest volcanic eruption we've ever seen. So the Earth is compensating for something right now, and it's trying to get rid of this excess volcanic ash. And I do not blame it. Why is it so tiny? Why is it so tiny? Why did they make it so small? How do you do that? Oh no, earth.nullschool.net. Why did you do this? Why did you make everything so tiny? Okay. Let's see. Particulate. Sulfur dioxide. Oh, I'm so lucky that I know where to look for these things because this map has gotten tiny. Tiny. Let's see what we've got. We do see a lot of moving in some weather systems. You know, there's still a lot of sulfur dioxide over China for them trying to say that we don't see much of anything from satellite unless earth.nullschool.net is crap, which I don't think it is. India, the Middle East, you're still seeing a lot of sulfur dioxide emissions. Hawaii, you're seeing a little bit off of like Kauai, which is interesting because what's going on there. And you usually don't see that. And I haven't seen anything like that since, you know, the volcanic eruptions. So that's interesting. So we'll come back to that in a little bit if people have questions about that or want to talk about that at all. Just something that I noticed in things that are going on. So I'm going to check the chat really quick. Hello, Pam. Hello, Times and Signs. Hello, Bill. How are you tonight? Hi, Casimirio. How are you? Hope everybody's doing well. Hi, Doobie. How are you? Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Just interesting activity because I always like to watch, and we know from what we've learned from Dutch that when we see activity like that, and we see an increase in volcanic activity, usually seismic activity increase because we're compensating, we're letting off steam and pressure. If you follow Mark Elkin and Laura Wells, we're getting closer to the front side alignment after we're getting out of the backside alignment period. So we start to see after the Earth has pores expanded, now we're contracting a little bit, it's going to start expanding again. So we start seeing an uptick, like I said, at this time of year, regardless, just because of the planetary alignments where we are in the universe, etc. So we're going to get into one of the things that is going on tonight, which is we've got some interesting activities. Now, you know, one of the things, and like I said, I wasn't going to bring it political at all, but tonight is Super Tuesday, so I'm going to bring it political for 1 minute. One thing I haven't seen are any of the candidates talking, at least I haven't noticed. Now, if somebody else knows, then, you know, please, you know, correct me. But I haven't seen any of them really talk about what they would do for coronavirus, or if the coronavirus is still a thing going up towards the election, what their plan would be. And I think right now, when a lot of people are concerned with the way the president has come out and really not been reassuring, okay, you know, I've talked to Ron about this, I've talked to a lot of people, we just don't feel reassured by those conversations that we're having. You guys know that we've been here since day one with coronavirus. We've been telling you guys, get prepared. Know that this is coming. It's going to happen. We foresee this one. We hope we're wrong, but this time we have a feeling. And my friend Mug with me in red. We're supposed to be me in red, y'all. Isn't it great? Best friends. So it kind of bothers me now that people are now I'm glad people are getting awareness of this now, right? Because at this point, like I said, we've been talking about this since January 19th is when Ron and I first started going on the air about this. And now we're in March. And so we were one of the first people who really hit the ground running, and we got a lot of flack from this, Ron and I did. We got told by people, you shouldn't be covering it. It's not a big deal. You're going to create panic. All of these different things. And we decided that no, we have a duty to the people to keep them aware, because no other person is trying to collect all this information and keep people updated. You know, governments aren't, you know, local municipalities aren't. We've got a lot of issues. And one thing I have been doing is covering it. Yeah, Trump is turning coronavirus into a useful enemy, Times and Science. It's not good for him. Because if he does not have a strong enough response, and then the Democrats' answer to that is to say, oh, well, he can't save us in an emergency, and he didn't want to protect American citizens, he starts looking bad pretty quick if people start dying, which they are now, okay? We are at a point where people, we told you guys about 2 weeks ago to be ready to start seeing deaths in the United States, because we knew with how things were traveling, the maps we had seen of how people could migrate. At this point, we would be starting to see deaths and starting to see the apparent effects. Now, one of the issues that I have, and I'm trying to add a few links to the clipboard so then I can just open them just really quick, because one of the issues that I have with, okay, well, yeah, this is a good article too. We'll talk about that. Let's see. Sweet. One of the issues I have is with the 7th death in the Puget Sound region. And we're going to pull up this article together here in 1 second. And we're going to talk about it together. Oh, and we'll pull up the current stats for it. Because it's good to just keep checking in. The numbers are getting astronomical at this point. We need to just be aware. So, yeah, because the CDC and Trump and HHS and everybody has a different answer of what to do, what not to do. My local government officials came out and told us here to keep preparing. Buy all the things. They'll make sure that they have the open lines with commerce and with retailers to make sure that we can keep things in stock like cleaners and water and things. But they told us, good for us, go prepare. So, and I was really surprised because we live in a really liberal place, but we also live in a place where most of our Minnesotans are self-sufficient, truly. So it's interesting to see that they would tell us that, but not tell others that. So the article that I was looking for, now will they even link to it? Because they just put it on the front page. Okay, well, I don't like this because I can't find the actual article on Como now. I'll still share it, but they basically updated an article from earlier today. And I actually copied the headline, so it shouldn't be an issue to just repeat the headline at this point. But still, something that I didn't like. Okay, so the latest victim, okay, so this was death number 7. I know we're at 9 now, but death number 7 had died 6 days ago at Harborview Medical Center. But the coronavirus diagnosis wasn't made until well after the person's death, Harborview spokesperson Susan Gregg says. Okay, now. This person died 6 days ago, y'all. Okay, 6 days ago, which would bring it, let's say Monday was 1 day, Sunday was 2 days, 3, 4, 5, 6. This person died last Wednesday. We didn't start hearing about any cases or deaths until Friday. Okay. And how many other people, whether in Oregon, Washington, anywhere in the country at this point, have potentially already died in the last 1, 2, 3 weeks that could have coronavirus that do not meet quote unquote CDC's testing, and there aren't enough test kits, and some places aren't equipped to take the sample, and you have to send it back to the CDC in Atlanta for assay. Okay, so how many people is this? Yeah, they just took that article earlier and just updated it and acted like we don't have to say anything about it. So, okay, we'll read this. It's interesting nonetheless. The novel coronavirus has tightened its grip on Washington state Tuesday, with 9 deaths reported and at least 18 other cases confirmed statewide. 8 deaths have been reported in King County, and 1 fatality has been reported in Snohomish County, health officials said. Life Care Center in Kirkland is under scrutiny. The epicenter of the cases appear to be at Life Care Center of Kirkland, where a majority of the people who have died were residents of the nursing home. People who have relatives at the facility on Tuesday expressed concern about the state of affairs. They've dropped the ball from day one when it comes to this, said Bridget Parkhill, who was forced to catch a glimpse of her mother after being escorted to the back of the facility and looking into a window. Parkhill said she wants staffers to take more precautions around her mother and conduct more testing. Teddy Tyler expressed the same sentiment after his mother, Darlene, was rushed to the hospital from Life Care while suffering a respiratory illness last week. He said his mother was not tested for COVID-19 until Monday night. He said he wished that his mother had been tested earlier, and now his other relatives now wear masks when visiting her. Her coronavirus test is still pending. I just keep telling her I love her, Tyler said, and hope she can hear me. Patients treated at Evergreen Health Center in Kirkland, many of those diagnosed with the virus have been treated at the facility. Several of the patients at the hospital were in critical condition Tuesday night, including some who had underlying health issues. So not all. One thing that people have been coming at me for my life with, they're like, Scarlet, no one, all the people who are dying just have and are sick or have underlying health issues. That's not true. They say some that are in critical condition had underlying health issues. Some. So you need to remember that. As doctors were waiting for test results to come back on nearly 30 other suspected cases. Now remember, they have to send these out to the CDC in Atlanta, okay? So it's gonna take a while. You know, how many cases are already sitting at the CDC waiting to be tested? There's only so many people at the CDC. So Seattle issues an emergency. Mayor Jenny Durkin issued a proclamation of civil emergency, allowing her to exercise emergency authority to address any immediate dangers to the public as a result of the coronavirus. Durkin said the city will announce specific actions to combat coronavirus spread in the next few days. After consulting with local and statewide health officials, members of my cabinet, and other elected leaders, I have taken the precautionary measure of issuing a proclamation of civil emergency in Seattle, Durkin said. Because this is an evolving situation, we will continue to work in partnership with county and state officials to meet the immediate needs of our communities, especially vulnerable individuals and individuals experiencing homelessness. As we prepare to take additional steps in Seattle, we know that our city will need additional resources and help from both our state and federal government. For example, we are looking to our partners to increase the availability of testing in a way that does not overwhelm the healthcare system, but meets the growing need. We also need members of the public to be our partner in these efforts. Practice good hygiene, make a plan for yourself and your loved ones, and reach out to your neighbor to offer assistance. Durkin's proclamation give her emergency authorities to address imminent threats to public health and safety caused by coronavirus. The city of Seattle activated the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, which is a term you guys should hear often on air with people like me or Ron talking about that, to coordinate its emergency response. Basically, it's a place where fire, police, and everybody can sit together, talk about things and make decisions together. Durkin said the city of Seattle has been preparing and planning for COVID-19 since January, when the outbreak initially started in China. Now, if that's the case, why have none of the healthcare workers been using masks? Why did they not increase mask usage and PPE usage at places like nursing homes where they know there are vulnerable populations when it's already a serious flu year? Okay. If they've known about this since January and it is now March, we all need to think about how in advance these people actually know about it. So the first death linked to COVID-19. One of the deaths confirmed Tuesday happened 6 days ago. See, here's where they actually put it. But earlier today, it was the headline by itself. So they said, but the coronavirus diagnosis wasn't made until well after the person's death, said Harborview spokesperson Susan Gregg. Gregg said the patient, who had underlying medical conditions, was transferred to Harborview from the Life Care Center of Kirkland of February 24th, then died February 26th. But the cause of death was not discovered until testing was completed days later. Well, how many people are they testing? Are they testing all the people dying? Every flu death, every pneumonia death, every, ARDS death, are they actually testing? That's the only thing I have an issue with is are they actually testing? I do not know the answer, but why was this person, was it because they were at the life care center that they were specifically, asked to test this person? Have all the people at the nursing home been tested as of yet? I have a lot of questions, right? Potentially exposed staff have been contacted by Harborview's employee health team and are being monitored and screened daily. New questions are being raised about testing being done by the state. The public lab in Shoreline, so they do have it in the state, has tested 99 specimens for 56 people, a breakdown for about 2 to 1, because for every person tested, state officials typically conduct tests on 56 people. Okay. So that's a lot of tests. They said Como News asked how many tests the state has conducted since January when the first COVID-19 patients in the country occurred in Snohomish County. Officials were working to provide that data as of Tuesday evening. In January, the tests were being conducted by the U.S. Centers of Disease Control in Atlanta, but now the tests could be completed in Washington State. Okay, so that's answered. Okay. During a press conference Monday, Governor Jay Inslee said the plan is to build up the lab's capacity to conduct more testing. The facility in Shoreline has a capacity to test 200 specimens a day, but over the last 3 days, only 99 specimens were tested. The state plans to add additional testing capacity from the University of Washington's lab, along with working with other commercial labs, officials said. Are more cases expected? What we have seen with the level of community spread has raised the level of concern about the immediate threat of COVID-19, King County health officials said. The coming days and weeks likely to bring more confirmed cases of COVID-19, but if we can all follow health recommendations now, we can blunt the impact of COVID-19 in the community. Several of the deaths and cases stem from an outbreak at Life Care Center in Kirkland. On Tuesday, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper said his state now reported its first coronavirus case after a Raleigh student traveled to Washington State and was exposed at a long-term care facility, which was the Life Care Center in Kirkland. During Tuesday, a press conference, Cooper said the man is doing well and is in isolation at home. I know people are worried about this virus, and I want to assure North Carolinians and our state is prepared, Cooper said during his press conference. Across the Puget Sound region, hundreds of people were being monitored for the illness. Amazon said in an email Tuesday, an employee tested positive for COVID-19 at a building based in Seattle. The company said the employee went home February 25th and has not returned to the Amazon offices since. So we're about a week behind. What I'm getting with this information and what they've been saying all day in Washington and what we know, we're about a week behind for testing, for knowing who's infected, for community spread, for all of these things. And I think that that's really a disservice because people should have been looking for this 2 to 3 weeks ago, not just right now. And it's really too bad that, not saying that everybody should listen to Ron and I, but if you would have been listening a month ago, you would have known that we said to start getting ready for this in workplaces and in public areas and to start thinking about, social distancing techniques that Ron taught you about that he knew from being an emergency manager. So they said Amazon notified employees who were in close contact. The afflicted employee remains in quarantine and we're supporting them as they recover, Amazon said in the email. Defined as 6 feet, closer than 6 feet over a long period of time who were in close contact with the infected employee. The risk of transmission for other Amazon employees was deemed low, the company said in an email. And Indeed, which has offices in Seattle and Austin, said workers will be working remotely until further notice. 7 new cases in King County are a female in her 40s, worked at Life Care, never hospitalized and recovering at home. A female in her 60s, a family member of a confirmed case of COVID-19, not hospitalized. A male in his 70s, a frequent visitor at Life Care, hospitalization status unknown currently. A male in his 20s, unknown exposure, hospitalized at Swedish Issaquah. I don't know if they copied that twice or if there's just like two males in their 20s. Could be. A female in her 80s, never hospitalized, died at her family home on 2/26/20, a resident of Life Care. A male in his 50s, resident of Life Care, hospitalized at Harborview Medical Center and died on 2/26/20. So like I said, we're about a week behind. They're telling us about all these people, and this was like a week ago. 14 other cases in King County already reported earlier by Public Health. A male in his 50s, hospitalized at Highline Hospital, no known exposures. He's in stable but critical condition. He had no underlying health conditions. Again, see? No underlying health conditions. 50 isn't that target of elderly that people keep saying. Okay, yes, these people mostly seem to be older, but there are people who aren't. A male in his 70s, hospitalized at Evergreen Health in Kirkland. Man had underlying health issues and died on 3/1. A female in her 70s, resident of Life Care, hospitalized at Evergreen Health in Kirkland. Woman had underlying health conditions, died 3/1/20. A female in her 80s was hospitalized at Evergreen Health. She's in critical condition. A female also in her 80s, hospitalized at Evergreen Health in Kirkland. This person died on 3/1/20. A female in her 90s, a woman has underlying health conditions and is in critical condition. A male in his 70s has underlying health conditions and is in critical condition. A male in his 70s had underlying health conditions and died on 2/29/20. A male in his 60s hospitalized at Valley Medical Center in Renton. A man in his 60s hospitalized at Virginia Mason Medical Center. A woman in her 50s who had traveled to South Korea, recovering at her home. A woman in her 70s who was a resident of Life Care in Kirkland, hospitalized at Evergreen Health and died on 3/2/20. A woman in her 40s, employed by Life Care, who was hospitalized at Overlake Medical Center, and a man in his 50s who was hospitalized and died at 2/28/20 at Evergreen Health. This is a very fluid, fast-moving situation as we aggressively respond to this outbreak, said Dr. Duff Duchesne, health officer for public health in Seattle and King County. People with suspected or confirmed exposure to COVID-19 should reach out to their healthcare provider. As public health professionals, we really appreciate clinicians in the front lines of patient care, and they are critical to this response. So that's the situation in Washington. Like I said, I think they dropped the ball. I think we are a week behind of what they really want to tell us. This exploded really last week, and they haven't wanted to say anything. This is why people now are going out to the stores, buying up the toilet paper, cleaning products, of which if they don't have these things, you should be doing that. You know, so many people say, oh, you should be going out to prepare. Don't worry about it, this or that. But people are getting sick. People are being hospitalized, as we just read. People even in their 20s are being hospitalized. So we need to be aware that, you know, it's not just a strong immune system, because this is a disease that no one has had before. We do not create antibodies for this yet. We haven't caught it, and until we catch it, we cannot create a proper immune response. And so that's the biggest concern and issue for me with this, is that people are treating it like, because coronaviruses do come from the strains of common cold, they are believing that this is going to be no worse than anything else they've ever caught. And that may be the case, but that does not mean you cannot have demise inside of that. That's my only biggest concern for people, is that they're treating it as if you cannot have demise. Okay. So that's just where it's going. And it probably is the time for people to start enacting the airlocks in their home. I seen someone talk about that just now in chat. I didn't see who that was, but I do think that's important right now. I think airlocks in homes, having a decontamination station, whatever you want to call it, setting up an area where you take off the things that you're wearing out into the public as you come into your home to stop spread. to stop potential infection. They're talking now with articles from the Daily Mail that it could live on your phone for up to a week. So when you go out to public places, when you come home, you need to wipe down your electronics and your phone, because if it can live on surfaces for a week and you're carrying that around, touching, and like I just was scrolling and all, nope, done. Then I touch my face, done. So it's a lot of habits and things that we're not necessarily used to. It's a lot of hygiene that we should be doing, anyway, but a lot of times it would be overkill. But for this situation, I don't think it's overkill to be cleaning. And, usually you don't want to not expose yourself to the bacteria. You want a little bit of good bacteria, it's good for kids, go play in the dirt, expose yourself. And you don't want to, usually I wouldn't use hand sanitizer. Usually, and you need to be careful about that, because if you start using it all of a sudden, you can mess up your gut microbiomes and your body's microbiome and expose yourself to more disease than you want to begin with. So you need to just have a little bit of common sense when it comes to this, but at the same time too, putting extra precaution in place. Because this is just something a little bit different than what anybody else is used to. And anyone who tells you differently is wrong. Anyone who says, oh no, we've got this under control, is wrong. Because regardless if the disease is a threat, right? If SARS-CoV-2 is a threat, or COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, it's the government's response, the way people are reacting, and the way that our country could be shaped that matters. We're seeing the stock market bounce up, bounce back down, bounce up, bounce back down. People are making money off of that. Someone at Mr. Tire's job actually invested in the coronavirus vaccine. He claims to have made 17 grand in a day when the market was down for everybody else a few days ago. So people, if just a regular guy can invest $1,000 and it was like 39 cents a share when he bought it, it went up to $6.50 a share. He made a profit if he sells tomorrow of around $15,000. People are making money regardless if the market's going down. So let's remind ourselves why they would want to create a little cash run for themselves, protect themselves. One of the reasons why the United States is telling us don't buy any masks is because we don't have any. Okay, that's a big issue. That's why Ron and I told you guys a month ago to go out and buy masks. That's why I went out and ordered them from the last company I could find them in January. And those are medical grade masks. Those are level 3, the highest standard of masks you can purchase on the market. So I feel a little bit better about that. But at the same time, the reason why they're telling you this is because we only have 40 million in stockpile. They testified at Congress that we would need 300 million to even try to tackle something like COVID-19. Again, we only have 40 million. We only have the capacity with 3M and the other companies that we have stateside to make 30 million respirators a month. So I did some math, and it would take about 6 months to get up to the level where just first responders and healthcare professionals would have enough to go around. 6 months. And that's 6 months of this disease going around. That's 6 months of everybody's life turned upside down. And if it starts getting more intense, what does that mean for the rest of us? I mean, most of us only have a finite amount of masks, and then if those run out, where are we then? So we're going to have to be more smart in picking and choosing about when we actually go out, what we want to go out for. If there are things we can order online, we might want to do that. Just things of that nature, because if we're going to have to be picky or choosy, we can't just abuse what we've got. There isn't much room for error in this. It's concerning. So one thing I wanted to try to talk about tonight as well is just a few things. Like, we're going to pop up the worldometer really quick just to show you guys where this is at live. Let's see, did it pop up when I clicked it? Not quite sure on that. Oh, it didn't. All right, so we're gonna get that to pop up next. Oh, there we go. We've got it. So this is coming from worldometers.info. I like this site. It works pretty slick. I also suggest if you like it that you should use it too. So worldometer.com has the latest update as of right now, which is 93,160 cases, 3,203 deaths, 50,962 have recovered. So it's not completely bleak, you guys. This is why I say it's not completely bleak. It's not a death sentence, but it is something that we need to be aware of because we probably are going to catch it. 70% of the world's population, they estimate, will catch it. But people do recover, okay? So active cases, currently infected patients, 38,995. Okay, 32,224 in mild condition, 6,771 in serious or critical condition. So that's 17% of the active cases. Closed cases, which are recovered or discharged, 94%, 6% death rate. Okay, which at a 6% death rate, if already 500,000 people die internationally of the flu, and flu is only 1%, what will this make coronavirus? This is why I think people need to really step back and think, because this isn't just a flu. If the numbers are correct, which they say they probably are now, and that before, they just didn't have estimates, which is interesting because that Dr. Harry Chen, who got removed from Twitter, was saying that this disease had an R naught, and we sat and read this together on air a month ago, had an R naught of 4.8 to potentially 6. And people didn't want to believe that. Well, here we are, 6%, which would quantify the R naught values that they were saying then, and that was a month ago. So total cases, they show like a linear increase of cases, which is really interesting. About February 15th, we start to see like, a spike, as well as the 11th, we saw a spike. So the last 2 weeks have been, up. Total deaths, we're over the 3,000 mark now, which is astronomical to think that, January 22nd, 23rd, we only had 25 deaths reported, and now we're thousands. Okay. So here are the actual cases with new deaths, total deaths, active cases, total recovered, serious and critical. It has every country that has reported somewhere at this point. We're at many, many different countries, even Liechtenstein. There have been 119 new cases, 38 new deaths, 37 in Hubei, and 2,652 new discharges occurred in China, as reported by the National Health Commission, which is interesting because they said now that a lot of people in Wuhan and Hubei province would not be released back to the general public because they keep testing positive for coronavirus, so they're not going to let them go. So they say new discharges, but are they really being discharged? Because the last I knew in Hubei province, they weren't letting them out. 142 new cases and 1 dead in South Korea, 3 new cases in Canada and British Columbia. The World Health Organization, Bruce Aylward, said a joint mission to China, I think the key learning from China is speed. It's all about the speed. The faster you can find the cases, isolate the cases, and track their close contacts, the more successful you're going to be. Speaking of, I started joining some Korean and other country coronavirus groups on the internet. And what I found there is that Japan and China and South Korea all have programs that when a case is found, they have a national coronavirus app you can join. And it literally tells you down to the street, intersection, and where these people were before they went to the hospital. And it's important that this man from the World Health Organization says that because other countries are actually tracking it down to what intersections they went to, who they came in contact, what stores they went, what buses they rode, what routes on the buses they rode, what roads they went past, what time they were on the bus, everything. So that if you were in that area at that time of day, you can figure it out and then self-quarantine. So they say people keep saying the cases are the tip of the iceberg, but we couldn't find that. There's a lot of people who are cases, a lot of close contacts, but not a lot of asymptomatic circulation of this virus in the bigger population. And that's different than the flu. China patients got into treatment early and have highly sophisticated healthcare with treatment procedures. They're really good at keeping people alive with this disease. They have a survival rate with a mortality rate just under 1% outside of Hubei province. For this disease, I would not extrapolate to the rest of the world. What you see in Italy and Iran is that a lot of people are dying. Panic and hysteria is not appropriate. This is a disease that in the cases in their close contacts, it's not a hidden enemy lurking behind bushes. Get organized, get educated, and get working. So the United States now has a total of 124 cases, 76 domestic, 48 repatriated from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, and 3 from Wuhan, China itself. Domestic cases by state, 27 in Washington, including 9 deaths, 1 recovered, 24 in California, 4 in Illinois, 3 in Florida, 3 in Oregon, 2 in Arizona, 2 in Georgia, 2 in Massachusetts, 2 in New York, 2 in Rhode Island, 2 in New Hampshire, 1 in North Carolina, 1 in Texas, and 1 in Wisconsin, including 1 recovered. Also, 1 new case in New Zealand. The woman arrived in Auckland from Singapore on the 25th with the Air New Zealand flight NZ0283 on her return from Italy. You know, interesting part about that too is a lot of people I've been seeing have said they've been coming back, you know, from trips and people they know. No one at the United States airports are checking any temperatures or asking, you know, people if they've had any symptoms or have they, you know, are they feeling sick or are they okay, or telling them they should self-quarantine. I think anybody from an affected country that has cases, they know that they were in the area of where these cases could be, they should be self-quarantining. They're only quarantining though for 4 days, but we know that there have been cases as late as 47 days after contact. At some point, this is going to have to be addressed by the government, because you can't have a disease that can potentially live on surfaces for a week and have cases after 47 days and think that we could just tell people, oh, quarantine for 14 days and you'll be fine. Will they be fine? Or will they go out and infect people during, like, let's say we find out that after 14 days, that next 14 days, you're a super shredder until 28 days passes, and then you start getting symptoms. How do we know it's not like that? And then you're out spreading it to everyone. You know, I think that, I know we don't want to shut down the country too early. And I know that it's not good to stop the economy. But if you have a job or if you have a situation that allows for that right now, you need to take it, because I just don't think it's time to do so. Yeah, no mixing bleach and peroxide. I've seen that in chat. It's very interesting. You want to be careful with what you're mixing, especially for cleaning products. That's something that people don't think about. You know, I seen somebody tonight on my personal Facebook who was like, I bombed myself tonight with a gas cloud. You know, you got to be really careful about that. First case in Chile, first case in North Carolina. Oh, it skipped ahead on me. Well, actually skipped back. So it's been interesting. We've got a lot of cases now. It's not just a couple people. 466 new cases and 27 new deaths in Italy, for a total of 2,500 cases. I mean, just look at this. This goes on and on and on and on and on. 835 new cases, 11 deaths, and 144 new recoveries in Iran. I mean, you just see all of these different things. Oh, Massachusetts was a woman in her 20s and traveled to Italy with a school group. So there are younger people that are catching it. And now we're back to March 2nd. So if you guys want to check this out, it's worldometers.info/coronavirus. Very, very helpful. Also even has incubation deaths, countries death rate. You could even break it down even further. They also have news, as you saw when I was scrolling down. They also link to all of their stories, so it kind of helps you. BNO is also a good resource as well. Date when we aren't on air, Agenda Free TV is an excellent resource for coronavirus news. Steve Lipner has been killing it since the first cases in China, doing an amazing job covering this all night long. He usually does a couple updates a day and a lot of late night updates. So I do appreciate that as well. Now, we do have an article about who's getting sick and a breakdown of coronavirus risk by age, gender, and other demographics. So I thought people might find that interesting. They said that the vast majority of cases, 87%, were people in ages 30 to 79. The Chinese Center for Disease Control reported last month, based on data from all 72,000 of those cases diagnosed with COVID-19 as of February 11th. That probably reflects something about biology more than lifestyle, such as being in frequent contact with other people. Teens and people in their 20s may also encounter many others at school and work and on public transit, yet they don't seem to be contracting the disease at significant rates. Only 8.1% of cases were 20-something, 1.2% teens, and 0.9% were 9 or younger. The World Health Organization mission to China found that 78% of the cases, as reported on February 20th, were people ages 30 to 69. The death toll skews old even more strongly. Overall, the China CDC found 2.3% of confirmed cases die, but the fatality rate was 14.8% in people 80 or older, likely reflecting the presence of other diseases, a weaker immune system, or simply worse overall health. By contrast, the fatality rate was 1.3 in 50-somethings, 0.4 in 40-somethings, and 0.2 in people 10 to 39. The age-related death risk probably reflects the strength of the respiratory system treated at the Central Hospital of Wuhan. Researchers are reported to developed acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, in which fluid builds up in the small air sacs of the lung. Now, ARDS is really interesting. Now, there is a few different videos that you can go out there and watch. There is MedCram on YouTube, which I highly recommend. They have very short medical lectures, but done in a very layman's type way. So I highly recommend people go there because you can understand more about what ARDS is and how many people struggle with ARDS in a year. Most people who end up dying from like pneumonia and other diseases actually end up dying from ARDS and not the disease itself. So they say it restricts much air the lungs take in, reducing oxygen supply to vital organs, sometimes fatally. Half of the ARDS patients died compared to 9% of patients who did not develop the syndrome. The ARDS patients had an average age of 61 compared to an average age of 49 for those who did not develop ARDS. Elderly patients were more likely to develop ARDS, researchers wrote, suggesting how age can make COVID more severe and even fatal. Age increases the risk that the respiratory system will basically shut down under viral assault. In youth, in contrast, seems to be protective. The WHO mission reported a relatively low incidence in people under 18, who made up only 2.4% of all reported cases. In fact, mid-January, 0 children in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, had contracted COVID-19. That's not clear whether that's because children do not show signs of illness, even if infected. Even in cases among children and teens aged 10 to 19 are rare. As of February 11th, there was only 549 cases in that age group, 1.2 of the total Chinese CDC found. Only 1 had died. The intriguing explanation for the apparent resilience of youth in regions near Hubei province, young children seem to be likely exposed to other coronaviruses. Scientists in China reported in 2018. That may have given them at least partial immunity to this one. The effect of sex on susceptibility to COVID-19 is less clear than the age effect, but preliminary data suggests men might be more susceptible. China CDC found that 106 men had the disease for every 100 women, while the WHO mission found that men make up 51% of cases. A study of 1,099 COVID-19 patients in Wuhan through January 29th found a greater imbalance. 58% were male. The China Medical Treatment Expert Group for COVID-19 reported last week in the New England Journal of Medicine. It is possible that the apparent sex imbalance reflects patterns of travel and contacts that make men more likely to be exposed to carriers of the virus. Not any inherent biological difference, but it's also apparent the worst disease severity in men could skew the data. Among hospitalized patients, there's a slight predominance of men, U.S. research wrote last week in JAMA. If the virus hits men harder than women, healthcare systems will see, test, and count more men. To determine if there are sex differences in susceptibility to infection would require unethical experiment. Expose 1,000 otherwise similar men and women to the virus and see who gets sick. The difference is fatality rates, however, is real. 1.7% for women and 2.8% for men, the China CDC reported. The male-female difference in fatality rates and perhaps in reported incidents may arise from differences in underlying health. People with pre-existing illnesses are more likely to get ill from COVID-19, and men have a higher incidence of such chronic illnesses such as cardiovascular disease. In the first study of the effect of underlying illness, researchers in China analyzed 1,590 patients from throughout the country with laboratory-confirmed disease. They calculated how comorbidities, existing illnesses, affected the risk of being admitted into intensive care, put on a ventilator, or dying. After taking into account patients' ages and smoking status, the researchers found that the 399 patients with at least one additional disease, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hepatitis B, COPD, chronic kidney diseases, and cancer, had a 79% greater chance of requiring intensive care, a respirator, or both, or of dying. They reported last week in a paper posted to MedRxiv, a preprint site that posts research before it's been peer-reviewed. The 130 with two or more additional diseases had 2.5 times the risk of any of those other outcomes. That fits with what's known about other respiratory viruses. People with a single comorbidity who catch avian flu H7N9 are 3.4 times more likely than otherwise healthy flu patients to require ventilators and other intensive care. SARS and MERS, which are also caused by coronaviruses, are more severe in patients with underlying illnesses too. Breaking down the COVID-19 risk with the most common comorbidities, the scientists found that cancer raises the risk 3.5-fold, COPD 2.6-fold, and diabetes and hypertension about 60%, because it isn't unusual for someone to have underlying disease, especially diabetes and hypertension, but not to know it. The last figure is likely an underestimate. Comorbidities also risk the risk of dying from COVID-19. China CDC analysis of 44,672 patients found that the fatality rate in patients who reported no other health conditions was 0.9%. It was 10.5% for those with cardiovascular disease, 7.3% for those with diabetes, 6.3% with those with COPD or chronic respiratory diseases, and 6.0% for those with hypertension, and 5.6% for those with cancer. Underlying disease might change the course of COVID-19. During the height of the epidemic in Wuhan, 37 of 230 patients receiving dialysis for kidney failure at Remedies Hospital developed the disease. Even though none were sick enough to require intensive care or mechanical ventilator, 6 of them died, a very high fatality rate of 16%. Oddly, however, none of the 6 died of pneumonia. Remedies researchers reported and said the causes of death were heart disease, stroke, and high blood levels of potassium, a result of kidney failure. The high fatality rate of COVID-19 in already sick people may not result from the virus, but from an exacerbation of the existing disease. About 60% of U.S. adults have at least one underlying health condition. Tom Frieden, former director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, told reporters on Monday. 60%, you guys. In early February, Chinese state media reported that a woman infected with the virus gave birth to a baby who later tested positive for it. Newborns might become affected because of the close proximity to a patient like anyone else, but the case raised fears that a pregnant woman could transmit the virus to her fetus via the placenta. One small study has investigated such vertical transmission. Scientists at the University of Wuhan found that 9 pregnant patients infected with the virus all had a cesarean section in their 3rd trimester. None seemed to pass the virus to their babies, all whom scored at the top of the APGAR scale of newborn health. As for the mothers, COVID-19 seems not to be especially severe in pregnant women, at least based on the small number in the study. That was somewhat surprising because pregnancy suppresses the immune system so it doesn't attack the fetus. Pregnant women are more susceptible to respiratory pathogens than non-pregnant women. Nevertheless, none of the 9 women developed severe COVID-19 pneumonia. It may be that immunosuppression is actually helpful. Some of the most serious symptoms of COVID-19 result from an immune system on the rampage rather than a lethargic one. Chinese scientists found an extreme immune response called a cytokine storm. A flood of immune cells and biochemicals they produce tears through the lung tissue. Now, why the cytokine storm thing is important is because this is why, okay, so we've been telling people, especially, you know, to use elderberry to increase their immune health. Well, okay, elderberry is good until you guys get sick with potentially what you think is coronavirus. And I'm going to tell you why. Because of the way that elderberry works, it creates its own cytokine storm, but in a good way to try to heal your body. If you overwhelm it while you have COVID-19, the cytokine storm is already attacking, it's going to create this perfect storm and completely overwhelm the system. And it may not work for the better. So I'm recommending everybody with this during the coronavirus is, yes, take elderberry right now while you feel good. Absolutely. But the moment you start thinking you get any upper respiratory, and remember, the symptoms of COVID-19 are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, shortness of breath. Okay. So there is a little bit of something. So it's not quite anything like what we've seen until you start getting into the later stages. So if you start feeling under the weather, I highly recommend you switch to like echinacea or golden seal or many of the other herbs that you could be using and back off of the elderberry due to the cytokine storm. Now, I will put up an article tomorrow that explains more about that, but that would probably take me 45 minutes to explain. Don't really have that amount of time right now. I would like to, but it's something that you guys all need to be aware of because I know a lot of people are talking about what you can take to be healthy, and elderberry is usually number one on the list. But in this situation, because of the way that elderberry functions, you don't want to do that. So usually it's usually a good thing, but not with COVID-19. Now, there is some research that says that elderberry can work well with coronaviruses and this and that, but I will find you the exact article that explains the cytokine storm that can happen after taking elderberry, which usually is a good thing, but when your body's already attacking itself, not so much. So I was just going to go check through chat really quick. Yeah, homemade hand sanitizer. We were going to actually talk about that. So I'm going to share another article with everybody. And I found a homemade hand sanitizer recipe. And I thought it would be wonderful to share. Because right now, while all the hand sanitizer is missing from the shelves of the stores, you could use something that's non-toxic and, dare I say, healthy. So that's really important too, because you don't want to use all these toxic chemicals that can interrupt your body's natural hormonal system and just really weigh down on your immune system anyway, because they're endocrine disruptors and hormone disruptors and just all types of bad news. So this actually comes from Good Housekeeping, how to make a natural hand sanitizer using 3 simple ingredients. They say vodka, aloe gel, and essential oils are all you need for this DIY gel. So they say that triclosan, an antibacterial agent, once widely used in alcohol-free hand sanitizers, is of particular concern as it has been linked to endocrine, i.e. hormonal disruption and liver problems, and has been shown to persist in the environment and waters for supplies for a long period of time. In 2019, a new FDA ruling stated that manufacturers wouldn't be able to use over 25 ingredients, including triclosan and benzethonium chloride in the United States due to newfound evidence that these agents could actually be irritants on their own. But the FDA hasn't banned every questionable ingredient just yet. Ethyl alcohol and isopropyl alcohol, along benzethonium chloride, are still being studied to see if they're truly safe and consumer-friendly hand sanitizers. So what's a health-minded person with dirty hands to do? You could buy an organic alcohol-based sanitizer. And I do have, you can go to myyl.com/thelibertydiva to get some great sanitizer spray that I actually use, the Thieves hand sanitizer spray, which is naturally scented with lavender oil. If soap and water aren't available for you or your loved ones, this could be the next best bet. Don't have time to wait for 2 days shipping? Whip up a non-toxic DIY hand sanitizer with our instructions below, which packs the germ-killing power of alcohol and antibacterial lavender and tea tree essential oils. Now, you could also use something like Thieves oil, like I just said, or it's called On Guard from doTERRA, or there's another brand called Panoram that does Good Samaritan, which are all very similar, just like Thieves. I would recommend, you know, those type of oils. Thieves would be like the perfect hand sanitizer for this. So you need plain vodka, a cheap brand is fine, aloe vera gel, lavender essential oil, tea tree essential oil, and other essential oils of your choice. Lavender and peppermint also make a great combo, which they do. It does. If the scent of tea tree oil is too strong, you need a small bottle, both toxin-free plastic squeeze bottles or plastic or glass spray bottle. It must be thin enough to be sprayed so it will come out in more of a stream. So fill your bottle a quarter to a third of the way full with vodka. Add 10 to 15 drops of each tea tree essential oil and lavender. They both have natural antibacterial properties, and together they smell great, making them an ideal combo. As well as fill your bottle the rest of the way with aloe vera gel and shake well. Toss in your bag or purse and use as needed. Now, one other thing that a friend of mine added to thin it out and also add some more antibacterial protection was witch hazel, which can help just like thin the mixture a little bit so it makes it more easy to use. But I highly recommend that recipe. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can have your own good brand, like it says, non-toxic, no endocrine disruptors that you can use. And that's something right now that those are the items you can still find on Amazon. You can go Amazon aloe vera gel right now and booze and essential oils, and you can get all those things. So instead of being panicked about there's no sanitizer, I can't tell you how many posts I've seen about that in the past week. Like, there's no sanitizer anywhere. Well, you don't necessarily need that. You can make your own hand sanitizer and it'll be just as good as what you can purchase in the store, if not better. So I highly recommend that. And so let's see. Go check chat, see what everybody's doing. Yeah, you could use diluted oil of oregano. But remember, like oil of oregano and things like that are a hot oil, so you'd want to be really careful with like touching your face afterwards. Due to the simple fact that if you get a hot oil or if you use thieves, you would want to use around your eyes either because it's a hot oil, so it's going to get in contact with those membranes and then potentially cause irritation. So that's probably why they told you to use like lavender and peppermint and tea tree because they're easy, and lemon would be a good antibacterial oil, lime would be a good antibacterial oil. Things that you can kind of touch your face with, but you have to be careful about sun exposure if you use lime or lemon because it's a photosensitive oil. So you wouldn't want to be out in the sun unless you're using some type of sunscreen if you're using that type of hand sanitizer, if you add lemon or lime. Because the photosensitivity could cause instant burns because of the limonene in lime and lemon essential oil. So you got to be really careful about that. And if you guys ever want to go through like an essential oil whole show, I will do that for you guys. But I've been doing essential oils and selling them and been a presenter and doing this for 5 years. So I feel pretty good about my knowledge on essential oils. Oh, you know what a good one also would be too? Rosemary. Rosemary would be a good one. Sage. Sage also would be another good oil that you could use, antibacterial, antimicrobial. That could be of great benefit. A silver gel could also be great. Colloidal silver gel. A lot of people make that at home and have their own colloidal silver generators. That's also a good option. So yeah, and Pam, if you use non-alcohol based sanitizer, you could use aloe vera gel and the witch hazel, like we talked about before, and maybe just a tiny bit of like drinking alcohol, because that's not ethyl or isopropyl alcohol, might be all right for you, but you still would want a little bit of alcohol. But if you couldn't, honestly, witch hazel, aloe vera gel, and a more potent essential oil, maybe like a rosemary, might be a better option for you if you can't tolerate alcohol-based hand sanitizers, which a lot of people can't. They get contact dermatitis from it. It's just not good for the skin. It dries you out. You're going to need some type of moisturizer if you're using a lot of hand sanitizer, or foam hand sanitizers like at the hospital. You will have to moisturize. It's something that you're going to have to get used to doing. Trying not to touch our faces needs to be something that's in our lexicon. I don't know how many times I've touched my face tonight, but I'm sure I've touched it quite a few times. That's going to have to be something that we try to move ourselves away from. One thing I also got for just regular sicknesses around the house are these echinacea zinc lozenges. They make a lot of different kinds. They make elderberry ones. They make this, that. I didn't get elderberry due to the fact of if something's going on with the cytokine storm, we don't want to push that into overdrive. Each lozenge, it doesn't have a bunch of zinc, but it does have 5 milligrams of zinc per lozenge. A package like this is like $2. So it's a nice way to get herbals into your system. Pocket friendly, to bring them with you. If you have to take public transportation, this is something that you can be eating in your mouth while you're going to hopefully prevent that. This is going to be important. How we clean, how we stay safe, what our hygiene looks like. All of these things are going to determine how this turns out, whether people want to realize that or not. All of the hubbub of should be people be purchasing these things, should they not? Everybody, as a prepper, as we're like communities of preppers, we know to purchase things before things happen. Yes, we might be tightening down some of our, preps and ideas, but for the most part, we already, have thought about these type of things for our family. Maybe we never thought of it as a pandemic as big as this one. And that's what Ron and I sit back and talk about just about every day that we speak. And we go, just wow. There's times where we're just on the phone, you guys, like, wow. I don't even know what to think or make of this. Wow, this is so much bigger than we ever thought it even could be at this point. We wanted to be wrong, but we weren't. So here we are. So I think that what the most important point right now is where we've got cases popping up all around us, and people in many different places are going to start to have to live with this as a reality. Let's try not to make it a stigma if you do catch it. Let's not treat it like the plague. It is something that it's a new reality that we're all going to have to go through. And hopefully we can do that without too much death. But at the same time, when we have 6% death rates, it's going to be 6 times higher than the average yearly flu. 500,000 people plus die from that. 6 times that, we're talking a few million people. Okay, so, which in the grand scheme of things maybe doesn't seem a lot, compared to 9 billion, but that still is going, with 6 degrees of separation, everybody's going to know someone. Oh, speaking of, I know someone on coronavirus quarantine. So a friend of mine that I have worked in the Kratom community with for many years, the pain community, she's a big activist. The other night was at UC Davis. And she's like, there's a bunch of media here and it's really strange. And I was like, ooh, girl, give me the deets. I do a show, like, give me some video. And she was like, all right, I'll see what I can do. Well, after that, she was just checked in and triaged by 2 nurses. And after they triage her, they sit her back down in the waiting room. She's waiting to get a room. And they go up to these nurses and tell them, you've been exposed to coronavirus. You need to go home. And then they look at my friend and they're like, now, after you leave tonight, you're also going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks. They send these women home. They're crying, hysterical, just freaking out. They put my friend in her room. She finds out she has 2 broken discs in her back. So it's a pretty serious situation, but she has a condition that this happens, constantly with her. So it's her normal. But 2 days before they came out and said 124 people were being quarantined as medical from UC Davis, this had happened. And it just makes you wonder if they sat after that and thought about all the contacts that these people could have had and who else could be exposed. And then they decided that 125 people went home. Did they replace those people? Were they all nurses? Were they support staff? All big questions at UC Davis right now. If this starts happening at hospitals around the United States, are we going to be affected? We already know there's not enough beds for even, a quarter of the people they think are going to have coronavirus. So with that being said, if our actual first responders, nurses, and healthcare workers are getting sick, what chance do we have? You know, they're not even having them wear masks. You're not seeing people wear masks. They're telling people don't wear masks if you're not sick, because they need to save them all for the people who are sick that they put into isolation who need masks. This kind of makes more sense why the people in the base at Travis Air Force Base in Miramar didn't get any disinfectant, didn't get any masks, because they're waiting for a larger outbreak. And this is a big issue. And this shows, you know, other countries like Sweden and Norway and Russia all gave their citizens preparation kits that would have things like masks, maybe only a couple, but that's better than all of us in the United States who either had to procure them ourselves or now are struggling to even find them. And Ron said that he was out this past weekend and he was wearing a mask, and they told him to leave the store because he was wearing a mask. And I'm sorry, but there's a lot of immunocompromised people out there, and they need to wear masks. There are people who are going through chemotherapy, people who already have primary immunodeficiency, autoimmune disorders. You know, a lot of people who have Ehlers-Danlos have been told, you know, and I have Ehlers-Danlos, have been told by their doctors to wear masks already, to protect ourselves because we have lowered immune function. So we need to be wearing masks already. But now we have people at stores trying to kick you out because you're wearing masks. The hysteria has to stop somewhere. Why I said, even if you catch it, let's not treat this like the plague. If you have a neighbor who has it, let's not treat them like the plague. At a certain point, we're all either going to catch it or not, and there's not much we can do about it at this point. It's here, it's around. Even if you create a vaccine, your body still needs to get over it. Your body still needs to act like it's fighting it. So regardless, no matter what, and I don't believe in vaccines, and definitely not this one that's RNA in function and uses your body's DNA and bypasses the way your body makes antibodies and sends proteins to the cell to then trigger antibodies to then trigger an immune response is so backwards that I don't even trust it. Trump sat yesterday with all the heads of the biopharmaceutical industries and pharmaceutical industries. And he made it a point, which he doesn't talk about vaccines much because he got in a lot of hot water in the beginning of his administration with it, with wanting to create that vaccine safety council with Bobby Kennedy. And he was saying that he was more interested in the therapeutics than a vaccine, because by the time the vaccine gets here, everybody in the world is already almost going to have caught it, you know, or been exposed to it. And the point is, if this is going to turn, once they say it hits 60% saturation of the world, it turns into a childhood level epidemic. The way that you would fight a childhood epidemic and the way that it's supposed to work is, as a child or at some point in your life, you become exposed. Then your body creates antibodies, and then now you would be immune. Now we know with COVID-19, we're not seeing the antibodies where you can't catch it again. You're able to catch it more than once. And some people haven't turned off the function to not be passing it yet either. So there's a lot we don't know that I don't feel, even if there could be a vaccine, that vaccination would work with the situation, just because people aren't like asymptomatic carriers or not. There's a lot of gray area that we don't have any answer with, that we can't say for sure that would stop transmission or not even fuel transmission. You know, it's going to be a live virus RNA vaccine that goes in, and they said because our body, it's like rewriting the code of our genes. They said, no, you don't rewrite anything in my temple. It's not going to work. So with that being said, we're going to have a while. So Trump kind of surprised me. I was surprised he actually even mentioned it. But that makes me feel a little bit better that at least he even knows the best option right now is to try to figure out therapeutics or potential drugs that could work to reduce symptoms, because where we're at right now, people are already catching it. You know, this isn't something like another type of outbreak that they try to erase off. No one's ever had this. We know nothing. And the fact that there's already vaccines being ready to be clinical trialed, people just don't realize this has been happening for years, and the vaccines aren't tested, and they go through a couple months of testing with just a few hundred people, and they say, nope, it's safe. Because no one had any reactions, or at least reactions that we feel concerned enough to stop production, because the benefit outweighs the risk to have this life-saving vaccine. So that's the only issue I have with that, because it opens up a whole new can of worms. When we can't even figure out where people are going to go who have it, we don't even have enough supplies to take care of people. I don't think we should be worrying about things that don't even exist yet. Let's worry about what we can actually control on the ground and how we can stop transmissions from people and distance this and stop the time that people are catching it. But at this point, like I said, no need to be panicked. No need to freak out. Yes, this is different from something we've ever seen before, but people can recover. They do recover. People do die from the flu every day. We forget that. So we've kind of just got to get our minds back into, we are fragile here as human beings on this earth. We need to take care of our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. And right now is a time to support each other, maybe from afar, but actually support each other and be there for one another, to just say everything's going to be all right. We may not know what's going to happen next week, next month, or any of that, right? Because we can't tell that. What we can say is that no matter what happens, we're going to be supportive of each other. We're going to be there for one another. You know, the mental toll that starts to lag on people as you start to go through a crisis like this, it really starts to wear at your mind. You can get PTSD, you can get angry, you know, from being locked up so long, from just having the fear of what if, you know, because if your loved one does have some of these issues or comorbidities, you probably will be more concerned about what happens to them. But that still shouldn't let you stop living your life. Love on them harder, be around them more, take care of them, speak sweeter. Do things that will matter, right? Because worrying about if coronavirus is coming to your door tomorrow, or if you're going to catch it tomorrow, isn't necessarily going to help you in the long run. Obviously, washing your hands, making sure you try to wear some form of PPEs, and staying in that hygiene realm, yes. But you can't just stop your whole life. You know, otherwise it's time for you to just go in the bunker now. So we can't just stop our whole lives, but we do have to find what does this look like now? And maybe it's being done by design. You know, a lot of people have unplugged themselves from the real world into a virtual world, that now this is a real world problem that's everywhere. Do people now again unplug and try to work this out real world? Because I'm concerned about potential, you know, rumors or activities in neighborhoods. You know, I've seen pictures online of people in Oregon wearing, you know, full hazmat, going to people's houses. You know, does that cause panic in a neighborhood? Have neighborhoods talked about, hey, you might see people in full protective gear come and pick up people who may or may not be infected? They're going to have to start talking about what's going on before we see some type of incident where people either try to hurt each other because they think they have the coronavirus or think they're going to die from it. So they're very concerned because now it becomes an issue because nobody's been talking about it for a month and a half. There's just a lot of what ifs that I don't think the government has thought about yet, or they have and they don't want to talk about it. But I think that keeping it to individual counties and areas to report things, and there's real no government across the board answer. And there's no real cohesiveness, it looks like, of what, you know, like a task force or anything should look like in this situation. We all kind of feel like we're on our own. And I think that's the scariest part for people, you know. I'm just, that's my biggest deal. And it's true, Scooter Pie. So many people think this is all a joke and a hoax. And I really need people, and I get where they're coming from with this. You know, I'm the biggest conspiracy theorist there ever was. And yes, there are some concerning issues. Yes, this could be a biological weapon. Yes, there could be some connections with 5G, activating it and affecting our bodies to where it creates a more serious disease. Yes, there could be XYZ. But to say this isn't real, or the threat isn't real, or it's just a cold and this and that, I think is quite ignorant right now. And I'm going to be honest, it's really ignorant. You know, the amount of people I know who read medical journals and read science and, you know, stay on top of the latest vaccine information and vaccine science, to not pick up the same type of medical journals and read them about what's actually happening with COVID-19, ignorant. They know better. They know how to read these things. They know how to turn it from, you know, pseudo jargon to layman's terms in their minds. And so that really bothers me. And I don't know if this is being, it's almost like an exercise in cognitive dissonance. And I'm scared because I think this turns bad for certain people who are just completely ignoring it. Nope, not a big deal. I'm not even getting a extra roll of toilet paper. Nope. You know, I've even seen people come out and say, well, if there's going to be no toilet paper, I'll just go rob people. Don't try that at Scarlet's house. Don't. You don't. Don't steal something from me and my family. I would be more likely to give you something if you came to my door and said, hey, can I borrow some toilet paper? Honestly, probably give it to you. But if you think you're coming with the intent to take from me and my family, don't. Just don't. I am not the one. Don't. That's what concerns me, is that type of attitude. Those are the people that I'm going to be really concerned coming up the days, months, and weeks. You know, if people aren't ready, and then this becomes to a situation where average people start to panic because they don't know what this means. We're not getting enough answers. We don't get enough information. I'm concerned. I'm truly concerned. This is why I say we need to stick together to the people we know, and stick together with our families of people we found on the internet or our tribes, because it could start to get dangerous and angry out there. We don't know. Multiple cities across America are already without toilet paper, paper towels, hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes, rice, beans, noodles, soup, you know, just the regular everyday staples. Do we have food to replace that? Also, another interesting thing to think about is a lot of people think coronavirus timing is uncanny, because about right now they'd have to start admitting about the crop losses that I've been talking to you guys about for over 2 years. And that, you know, after last year's crop wiping out and the additional crop losses all around the world that continued, including right now, all of the locust swarms that are just decimating crops all around the world, they were going to have to announce this year that food stocks and stores are completely depleted, and that what we've stored for many years is no longer. And so is this convenient timing not to have to admit that? Because now, oh, everybody bought it out. Nope, we never had it. Everybody bought it out. I wonder. Because even after this, we know supply lines have been so down for the last 18 months to 2 years, that do we even have the products, you know, as far as like hard, you know, tech, like foods? Do we even have the products to refill things like noodles, rice, beans, all these other things that have had decimated 2 years in a row, to where last year we lost 85% of the U.S. grain stores when Nebraska flooded. The year before, we lost most, if not all, of our grain storage just due to faulty planting. Eventually, you're going to have to admit we don't have nothing, because you buy the year before for the year of. So last year, so this year we'll be using 2019's coffers and whatever we saved up, but we didn't have any. In 2018, we really didn't have any. So eventually we're going to have to run into that. And people like Ice Age Farmer has followed that exclusively, Adapt 2030. But they're going to have to admit it soon, or will they? Will they just say, oh, because of global demand during coronavirus, we now have depleted stocks around the world on popular food items, and sucks? I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I do think that at some point they're going to have to make that correction in the market, and will they do it? I don't know. It's just a good question. Let's go see what else people are saying in chat. Let's see what everybody's saying in chat. Connie, who didn't answer your question? Did you have a question, Connie? I'll answer it. Oh, before or after sick? Elderberry, before. Elderberry is a preventative with the coronavirus in particular. Now, with any other condition, I would say elderberry the whole time. Go for it. Take tons of elderberry. Yes, all the elderberry. Yes. Okay. Coronavirus, cytokine storm. Elderberry, cytokine storm. You don't want to overwhelm your system while it's attacking itself to then take elderberry and think it needs to attack that too. And then it's really attacking your system. So elderberry right now, I'm highly recommending. Now, everybody can do what they want. I am not a medical professional, so you can do whatever you want. I am recommending taking elderberry until you feel the first symptoms of sickness. Then moving to something like an echinacea, a golden seal, something else to help, or antiviral herbs, things like that, to then tone down whatever's going on. Just right now with coronavirus, because we know that the cytokine storm issues can happen. So it's one of those issues that at first I was like, yeah, elderberry, take all the elderberry. Yeah. But like I said, I'm going to get that article for you guys that explains why elderberry has a cytokine storm. Maybe I can actually pull this up really quick and find it for you guys on a quick note. And also I seen that, oh, did you guys see that the clip from New York where the man fell out in the street, y'all, with the mask? Have y'all seen that? Hold up. I need to ask everybody in chat. And I'm going to try to find that elderberry cytokine storm right now while I ask. But have y'all seen that yet? I found it. Yes, found it. Okay. Now. So let's see. Yeah, okay, so Scooter Pie saw it. Okay. All right. Now, Donna, I do see that. Like, people are talking about 5G exposure, but you have to remind yourself, my dear, that 5G has been on around the world for a couple years already. It's been tested in many cities around the globe for years already. And 5G was already live as the coronavirus was starting. So yes, some of the symptoms of 5G and of 5G disease, as we could call it, do mimic some symptoms of coronavirus. Yes, Wuhan did activate 5G more heavily after coronavirus started for community connections, right? They're also using it to diagnose COVID-19 patients from remote areas, right? But that doesn't stop it in the bodies. It doesn't stop, whether you call it COVID-19 or 5G disease, still happening, still going on. Why wouldn't we see more people all across the globe since in December, 5G went live with T-Mobile all across nationwide? My city's had it since the Final Four. Okay, so since the Final Four came last year, we've had active 5G. It's the only question, because I'm a big anti-5G activist as well, but you have to ask yourself, when it's already been activated in so many multiple cities and countries around the world already, why didn't we see explosions everywhere?
Now, maybe we aren't testing for it, maybe we can't see it, but you would think physically you'd see just a lot more sick people in general since this has been turned on. So it's something to think about. Let's see. Yeah, I've looked at a lot of Wuhan lab publications too, Bill, and there's an interesting one where they were actually working on the mechanism of how to get coronavirus and break through the spike proteins to get it back into a human system. And they were working on that in December from the Wuhan lab of virology. So I find that interesting because we're working on a way to get coronaviruses in people's systems to increase potential vaccine options, and then boom, bam, bop, we've got this crazy coronavirus going on. You know, it's a good question too. You know, how much of this is done by design? How much of this and the media response is also done by design? All good questions. Until we actually start meeting coronavirus patients or have it ourselves, I don't think that's something that we can answer because it'll still technically be a conspiracy until we can put our hands and physically know. But it's something to think about. It's definitely something to think about. Oh, thank you, Times in Science, for putting the elderberry nutrition. It has 870 milligrams of vitamin A, 406 milligrams of potassium, 52.2 milligrams of vitamin C, 9 milligrams of folate, 55 milligrams of calcium, and 2.32 milligrams of iron. Which is why for vitamin C, everybody, I highly recommend Camu powder. It has about 2,500 milligrams of vitamin C per dose. So it's really high dose vitamin C. It's all natural. It comes from the camu berry. So if you want something that's pure and natural and isn't sodium ascorbate or ascorbic acid, which you can use too, liposomal C is actually the best choice. There's been doctors in China who have been a part of this vitamin C task force group that have been treating people through IV vitamin C. But IV vitamin C in the United States is kind of a gray area because they, a few years ago, removed it from most hospitals using intravenous vitamin C. Why, you ask? Because it heals people. If you guys haven't known yet, the FDA likes to take away things that we can heal with ourselves naturally that aren't drugs. So vitamin C got X'd off the table. So it is hard to get a hospital who will actually use intravenous vitamin C. But if you can get an oral form now and take it now every day, will help prevent potential issues, as well as high dose, about 25,000 international units a day plus to bowel tolerance at least of vitamin C. And liposomal C is the best choice because the liposomal C actually goes into the cells and functions and fills the cells up with the vitamin C and helps keep them in the cellular level, where regular or non-liposomal C transfers a lot out through the gut and the bowels. So you want to retain as much of that vitamin C as you can in your system so that your body can raise its own immune system and start being a functioning powerhouse. So that thing is important. So well, that's lovely, Rick. I'm glad that your daughter is wanting to be involved. You know, a lot of people's families have been saying right now that they've wanted to be involved, and actually, you know, are paying attention now. Even some of my family members have now been more willing to be involved now. So I find that interesting. Yeah, if anybody wants to actually call in or have any questions right now, would be a wonderful thing. I will get that up for you guys really quick. Because, you know, we can still keep talking. I think I have a couple things left to talk about, but at this point I can have everybody come in as well. I just got to figure out, I always forget, because if I can't see the number, I always forget what it is. So give me a second here. Let me look at that. All right. So the number is 929-205-6099. And the meeting ID is 238-494-3128. Again, the number is 1-929-205-6099. The meeting ID is 238-494-3128. So you can call in live with me, Scarlet Anonymous, filling in for Ron Tyler on the Emergency Management Associates Radio here on Freedom Revolution Network. Please check out all of our other great shows on the Freedom Revolution Network. It's not just Emergency Management Associates here. We have Liberty Librarian. We have the original Red Pill show that's every morning. Also going to start becoming at night too. So we're going to have Red Pill in the morning, Red Pill at night. Scarlet, will be starting an extra little tidbit update weekly news show. So you guys see my face more than once a week or when I pop in with Ron. I'm going to try to do that because I want to do more news and I love doing that. So we're going to try to keep you guys more updated. As well as we're going to have the night talk with Dwayne Lanham. That'll be coming soon. Another late night show. Red and I are back for the most part now. She's at home. David's doing well. They're actually at home now. We'll talk about more of that probably Sunday or Friday night, probably Friday for clarity, when Red comes back on with me, because she'll be at home. So things should be starting to get a little bit more back to normal. Healing is not done by any means. Keep sending your well wishes. If you want to support Ron, definitely think about supporting Ron and us here at Freedom Revolution Network. We've been going through some pretty tough times with what's been going on with Red as well as our own things. So feel free, if you like what we do here, if you enjoy our programs, you like to be here with us at night, consider donating one time or monthly. You can go to freedomrevolutionnetwork.com, hit donate at the top, and then in the tribute area, you can put it for Emergency Management Associates, you can put it for Clarity After Dark, you can put it for the network, you can put it for Red, you can put it for Tim, whatever it is. But we appreciate your support, and just you being here and sharing the videos is more than enough. Thank you. And I just want you guys to know that. So never feel like you have to donate. It's only if you really like what we do and have the means and ability. And so we appreciate everything that you do for us. As well as, don't forget, you guys, the giveaway. We have a giveaway for a 72-hour kit with a couple masks and a couple Santa Claus. Now I'm going to tell you guys right now how to do that. What you're going to want to do is go to contest. You're going to write an email, contest@freedomrevolutionnetwork.com. Put in the subject line, entry for 72-hour kit giveaway. Okay? Then after that, you will be entered and you'll get a ticket. Okay? You'll get a ticket, one of these tickets. These are just the first 36 I pulled off my roll that we're getting out of the way. But you will get a ticket. You will get a number. I will get a number. You'll get a number. I'm not going to send it to you, but at least for polling purposes, we'll both have a copy of the ticket. The entries that I get off of the email, I will use, as well as there's going to be a couple other ways to enter. If you join the social network on freedomrevolutionnetwork.com/social, we will give you an extra entry. If you like the subscribe to the but YouTube channel, we will give you an extra entry. If you subscribe to Facebook, we will give you an extra entry. So there's many ways to enter. Like I said, we're going to start it right now. Okay, so I'm opening it up right now. The floodgates are open. 2 weeks from now, we'll be giving it away and sending it out to one lucky listener out there. So please get your entries in. Contest@freedomrevolutionnetwork.com. Put in the subject line, 72-hour kit giveaway. So join me there. It'll be exciting. I'm excited to give it away. Oh, let me grab it real quick and I'll show everybody what you get. Oh, here. So it's with our Ready Hour brand of foods. That's with mypatriotsupply.com. Mypatriotsupply.com right now is going about up to 6 to 8 weeks potentially behind for orders. So you could be waiting up to 2 months. Some things can be quicker than that. But at the same time, they've seen 20 times the amount of orders that they've ever had through My Patriot Supply. So they're trying to do the best they can. Most things are sourced and made in the United States. I believe everything's made in the United States. But it's just hard right now to get all these factories. And they were the best in the business being able to do 2-day shipping. And, you know, a month ago, they were able to do 2-day shipping. But now not so much. And even when I was ordering at the beginning of February, we were already seeing a week behind. So to see 6 to 8 weeks is not too intense, but again, so you will get home style potato soup. I actually made this the other night. It was really good. Okay. I added a little bit of ham that I had in the freezer in it. It made a really good ham and potato. Added a little bit of shredded cheese, add a little sour cream, add a little green onion, loaded baked potato and ham soup, right? Boom. Okay, second thing, creamy chicken flavored rice. Oh, and I had soup for the rest of the week off of this. Like this made enough soup for my family to eat for at least 3 to 4 days off of this one package of soup. And I added a little bit more water, added a little bit more bouillon cube and all that, and kind of made it work that way. So, you know, keep that in mind too. You can mix and match and kind of play this your own way. You also get creamy chicken flavored rice, which is a savory combination of rice and vegetables in a rich chicken-based broth. They also have black bean soup. I just cut my face with this, you guys. You get to see all the things that happen to me. Black bean soup, black beans and rice in a savory broth. I believe chicken is the broth base. Yes, chicken, and with some chili powder, some flavor, onion powder, green and red bell pepper, cilantro, garlic powder, chipotle chili pepper. Should be pretty good. Not just a plain black bean soup. And everybody's good old favorite, mac and cheese. Okay, can't go wrong with mac and cheese. You could add, you know, freeze-dried broccoli to this, freeze-dried chicken, freeze-dried beef. If you get like the dried beef that you can make cream chip beef out of, you can put that in here. You know, hot dog, spam and mac and cheese, y'all. Don't sleep on that. That's real and it's good. Similar to something I make called spam hot dish, but you can make this work for you. So those are the things that you will get in there. That is considered a 72-hour kit. Honestly, it's a lot more than 72 hours worth of food, though. I'm going to be really, truly honest. If you could eat this in 72 hours, I'd be really surprised. You'd actually have a lot of food left over. So that will go to one lucky listener, as well as I will put in a mask. I said 2 masks, so I'll put in 2 masks. This is a level 3 grade mask. It's got a safety strip up here with a little bit of foam so that when you actually put it on your face and meld it to it, it's got a little bit more fit testing, as well as it's the germ shield. So it actually protects germs going in as well as out. So it is an antibacterial mask as well. Not all masks are antibacterial. Like I said, this is a grade 3 mask. Germ shield. You can't even find these anymore. So I mean, at this point, it's pretty good. It's gold, as well as this 2 Sani-Cloths. So Super Sani-Cloth. These are the hospital grade disinfectants, and they're germicidal disposable wipes. So you can use them to clean just about anything, you know, hard surfaces, no soft surfaces, not food preparation surfaces. But, you know, if you were out somewhere and, you know, wanted to touch a doorknob or door handle or went up an escalator rail or something like that, you might want to have that on your hand as you go up. It's not a hand wipe, but to wipe down surfaces might not be a bad idea. If you were on a plane and you had a tray table in front of you, this might be something that you would want to use. Many different options available for this, but like I said, so this 72-hour kit that I have put together, I know there's a couple other people who said they had a few little doodads they wanted to put in with it. You're more than welcome to just email me, stationmanager@freedomrevolutionnetwork.com. Let me know what you've got so we can put it in there, or at least I can coordinate with you to drop ship. But I think it's really important right now that we get this out to one lucky person, and that person is really happy with what they get. And so that's just from a thank you from me from Freedom Revolution Network to you guys. I appreciate all of you guys for listening, tuning in every night, putting up with all of us and putting up with all of the technical issues and difficulties. And we're just trying to get better and better as time goes on. And that's all we can do. But we do it with the support of you guys. So I appreciate that. All right, so let's see what we've got. Anybody got some questions? Let me go check the chat. What's up, Anonymous Backwoods? Yeah, you're going to have a financial reset, crop loss, and forced vaccination, just like I told everybody. That's why I think some of this can be coordinated. But to say there's less risk than to get herpes and winning the lotto at the same time, quit the shit, okay? Because that's not how it's going to roll here, all right? We're talking seriously about a disease that we've done a lot of research around here on. It's been over a month worth of research, a month worth of blood, sweat, tears, and long nights. And so we're not going to have you to come in here and talk about it as if it's a joke, because to us here, it's not a game. It's actually quite serious. People are very concerned about their families and what's going to happen next. And we don't need snide, smart remarks like that. And I think that this just shows people kind of the attitude of people around the country, that if anybody talks about it in a serious capacity, it's haha funny. I don't find it haha funny. I don't get all the coronavirus memes. I don't find it hilarious. Some things are funny, but I really don't find it a joke. As many people as we've watched up to this point collapse in China, collapse in the streets, you know, children are without parents right now, families are broken apart from deaths. You know, there still are 3,000 plus people who have died, and all those people had families, and all those people had loved ones. And now it's coming here, and this is a threat we've never seen before. So we shouldn't be afraid, like I've been saying. There's no point in fear. Fear only paralyzes your potential actions. But what we do need to be is prepared and aware. And I think that we've never had a situation so that we can have a conversation as a country, so that we don't make this a joke, so that we don't cross boundaries. But right now, the way things are set up, we're not able to have that conversation. And I don't think if we can't have that conversation, we're going to be in a world of hurt. One other thing I wanted to talk about tonight was panic sweeps UK at the NHS. Because I think what people are going to be concerned about is that the NHS straight out came out, you guys, and said, the weakest will be left to die. Okay? And I don't think people realize that that's going to happen in like places like America or other places. But if the UK NHS is admitting that that is the route that they are going to go, we all should be concerned. Okay, that's the only thing I can really say about it. So coronavirus panic sweeps as UK NHS admits weakest would be left to die. 3 more Brits have tested positive for deadly coronavirus as schools shut and the FTSE falls $152 billion. Shoppers are in a rush to buy hand gel, medicine, groceries, and nappies, while the NHS admits it would not be able to treat the weakest if the disease takes hold. Okay, so we could just, okay, we'll hear it. We'll
and if it does not become a global epidemic, the UK is perfectly capable of containing and getting rid of individual cases leading to onward transmission. I expect there will be some onward transmission in the UK. We haven't had it as far as we can see to date, but that's just a matter of time in my view. But if it is something which is containable, the UK can contain it. If it is not containable, it'll be not containable everywhere, and then it's coming our way.
So that was interesting. They admit that they can't really take care of it. And that should be concerning for everybody. They believe that they'll have to ration care in a crisis. A school near one of the patients was shut while the country stores ran out of hand gel as shoppers began stockpiling. The former health secretary, Jeremy Hunt, said the NHS would find it hard to cope if the pandemic took off. It emerged tonight overstretched hospitals will be forged to treat only the patients most likely to survive if the coronavirus takes hold in the UK. That's a big deal. I don't care who you are. Who you are. That's a joke. They're not even going to take care of you. So they're just probably going to turn people away. They won't even take them into the hospitals, much like other places where people are saying that they're being, sent away, not tested. They're asking to be tested. They know that they've been potentially exposed even. One lady said she knew she was exposed to someone who had been to Italy. They refused to test her. This is the biggest issue. Mr. Hunt warned that other patients would face delays as resources were concentrated on the virus. Mr. Hunt, who chairs the Health Select Committee, said even the NHS would find it hard to cope if the pandemic really did take off, as hospital beds would soon fill up. There would be a severe knock-on effect waiting times for other treatments, which also people should be concerned about, because that healthcare system is similar to like Canada. And so waiting times for everybody else would be adjusted. Hong Kong actually has been canceling 10,000 appointments a day to try to open up hospital beds, and people who are doing like elective surgeries and other things that, aren't quite critical can wait, because they're trying to keep as many people out of the hospital who don't need to be there, saving protective equipment as well as resources and beds, so that if more coronavirus people come in, they can take care of them. And this is at Boots in York, all the, hand sanitizers sold out. People need to be buying that soap. See the soap next to it? Hand soap, all that hand soap needs to be bought up, okay? Good old hand soap is honestly the best way to do it. None of the antibacterial soaps, just good old hand soap, even bar soap. Soap helps the germs slide off of your hands, and then thereby creating a fresh, clean surface. You don't need the most extreme of extremes to kill bacteria and to keep yourself healthy. It's not like they're saying at this point it's a super virus, right? Like, it is strong, but it's not like it's something, unmanageable, right? And I think that they're trying to push this idea of wait for the vaccine. But what does that do for people during the time that right now, where people are being exposed to catch it? Hope for a vaccine is only hope for money in the pharmaceutical pockets, because as Alex Alazar said at Congress, not everybody will be able to afford it. And if they don't get enough funders and donors for this, the project won't even go forward. So they basically admitted, if we don't get private funds to help pay for our, fancy vaccine, we're not doing it. So doctors told of a 3 wise men system where top consultants would decide who get ration care. 3 wise men. What is this? I'm gonna have to look into this, you guys, because I don't like the name of that. That sounds like Death Panels Light. Okay, it sounds like when you come in, people are going to decide if you are actually bad enough to receive care or ventilation, and if you don't, and then you die, it's not a big deal, because we needed to ration it. A school was shut down in Buxton, Derbyshire, after a patient who had been on holiday to Tenerife became one of Britain's latest victims. People were joking about that last week, because I have a lot of British friends, and the first case in Tenerife came out, and they were like, oh, haha, I just was on vacation in Tenerife, and then I got the coronavirus. Well, it happened. So it's very interesting. Britain was saying things weren't going to, happen. And then boom, in the last couple of days, in the last week, all these countries have been, eating their words, like, oh, well, it's not quite here yet. We've done a great job, yada, yada. Well, now it's here. And they said waits for treatments are already at record highs after 10 years of Tory austerity with staff vacancies going unfilled. They don't need to bring this political right now. Northern Ireland patient confirmed to have the disease tonight had recently returned to Italy. The case was revealed after 2 others were confirmed to have the virus after returning from Italy and Tenerife. They are being treated at specialist NHS infection centers at the Royal Liverpool Hospital and Royal Free Hospital in Northwest London. So it's very interesting what's happening right now. We're seeing people in places starting to get it more. What actions, what hammer are we going to see crack down on us? Because at which point are they going to admit that they dropped the ball? When are they going to admit that they dropped the ball? And then at what point do they use something like AB 99? Okay, now it's been a while since we talked about AB 99. It's something that I reference often when I talk about this, because as soon as I saw AB 99, I about had a heart attack and was like, oh, absolutely not. Okay, now the reason why AB 99 is a big deal and why I am very concerned is because AB 99 is a bill out of the New York State Assembly that has had copycat bills around the country, including California with SB, I believe, 246, which is the same type of legislation. And this is why it's concerning. Okay, so give me a second here. I'm pulling it up. AB 99 relates to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases that are potentially dangerous to the public health. Okay, so the bill was originally, I think it tells us at the bottom when it was originally filed, so we'll get to that. An act to amend the public health law in relation to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to the public health. The purpose is to allow the governor or appropriate health official to order the removal and detention of any person afflicted with a communicable disease in the event that there is a state of health emergency declared by the governor in relation to such disease. Section 1 of the bill adds Clause 2120 to the public health relating to the removal and detention of cases, contacts, and carriers who are or may be a danger to the public health or other orders. Subdivision 1 defines the circumstances that the provisions of this section shall be utilized in the event that the governor declares a state of a health emergency due to an epidemic of any communicable disease. Now, remember that the definition of epidemic as the CDC is 3 or more people. So this is why it always concerned me more for like vaccine legislation, because an outbreak as defined by the CDC is 3 or more people. So subdivision 2 authorizes under clear and convincing evidence, not under recommendation of law, that the governor or his delegate may order the removal and or detention of such person or of a group of such persons by issuing a single order. The evidence should conclude that the health of others may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier of one of the suspect of communicable disease, and that after consultation with the commissioner may pose an imminent and a significant threat to the public health resulting in severe morbidity or high mortality. Such persons of a group or of people shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility designated by the governor or his or her delegee. Now, as you keep going with AB 99, it starts talking about when you're actually detained, that they need to check your medical condition on a regular basis, and they'll be, detained in a manner with proper isolation and infection control principles to minimize the likelihood of infection. That when a group of subdivision 6, when people are detained for a period not exceeding 3 business days, they can be, upon request, afforded an opportunity to be heard. Look, y'all, there's no legal wording for by law that you need to be seen. It's just as heard, opportunity to be heard. If said persons need to be detained beyond 3 business days, they shall be provided with an additional commissioner's order pursuant to subdivisions 2 and 8 of the section. Okay, so they say that they can be basically expedited in a hearing. You can have a court order authorizing such detention. Okay, in no event will a person be detained more for 60 days without a court order. But that means you can be detained for longer than 60 days with a court order. Okay. And it keeps going, basically, they can keep you there. You have the right to request release to detention, but that doesn't mean they have to let you go until they decide that you're deemed no longer a public health threat. 90 days in between each review, so they can hold you for 90 days, go back to the court, ask to be held 90 more days. So basically, you could be held in perpetuity. You can't try to leave or attempt to leave until you're discharged. And they can basically, under court order right here, give you any treatment, preventative medicine, or vaccination. Okay. Now, this bill is not passed, right? But they pre-filed it January 9th. And at the time, we were dealing with like New Jersey fighting back to keep their medical exemption. So I thought it was more of an attack because we've been having public health departments attack, the anti-vaccination movement for a really long time. I thought it was more in connection with that. Now, knowing what we know about coronavirus, this fits with coronavirus to a T. If they pass something like this is where people start to get concerned, at least I do, about FEMA camps, because this sounds like a bill for FEMA camps, okay? Medical FEMA camps. We can detain you as long as we want. It says nothing about using the rule of law or New York state law or following the Constitution or detention rules or any of that. They just say that they have the right to do so due to U.S. Title Codes 8 and 42, and that's how they get the rights, and therefore they can move forward with whatever they want. And that's the problem, is that California, like I said, as well as New York, both have laws like this on the books to be passed. It could be passed even in special session, that now put all of us potentially at danger or risk. And then how do you get out? Like I just said, in China, in Wuhan earlier, they are now keeping people detained who have tested afterwards for coronavirus due to the fact that even though they've been discharged from the hospital, they still test positive, so they're not letting them go home. How many people could that happen to in the United States where they catch SARS-CoV-2, but then they get COVID-19 disease, and then that doesn't go away? What if this is something that stays in your system once you catch it, like forever? Kind of like how shingles, chickenpox, when you catch the chickenpox, it goes dormant in your body, and as you get older, you can reactivate the chickenpox, but it turns into shingles when you get older. That's kind of what I'm thinking this SARS-CoV and COVID-19 kind of does. That even if after you catch it and you're over it, it's still technically in your system and could be reactivated by either environmental, maybe 5G, maybe other things, smart dust, chemtrails, all that good stuff could be reactivated, and then it just continues its destruction. I don't know. Would they tell us something like that? Absolutely not. So, I mean, it's something that we have to use our own cognitive dissonance on, do our own research, read the medical journals as much as we can get information, but at the same time, there's only so much we can do. So it's very, very interesting. It is funny how Alex Jones said those things many years ago. Alex Jones said a lot of things that are coming true now. I have always been a big Alex Jones fan. I actually started listening again. It's been years since I've listened, but I actually started listening again last week. And, he was talking about, how this is a move to push for global government, and I believe that. If you get everybody under control, they also just admitted too that it stays on money. And now the WHO is saying money could be a concern. Well, you get rid of all the cash, and now we're in a cashless society. Now we can even try to say, oh, well, too much of the economy, like I told you guys a month ago, too much of the economy now has been broken down by coronavirus. Therefore, we need to come up with a global system of currency and a global monetary tiered system. So that way we can recover without all the economies of the world losing everything. It's not a hard idea. Just saying, it's very simple to do. You tell everybody the money is infected, you can't use cash anymore, you need to use a mobile device to spend money. It's not hard for them to do that right now. And then that puts us in a real serious situation, because here comes the New World Order without really a shot being fired. You know, like I said, if this is a move for global government, it's not a bad one, because with this, you don't even have to fire a single shot. It's not, you know, like a civil war or frontline fighting or the Patriots coming out with militia movements and trying to stop what the tyranny. This isn't that. So you have to think of new ways that we could be effective, right? So that's the biggest issue with coronavirus. You know, and we deal with trolls. You know, trolls or whatever. Yeah, Alec Jones said that 10 years ago. FEMA camps, he wrote all about them, or wrote all about the plastic FEMA coffins, which with a disease like this would make sense. You put them in plastic FEMA coffins, therefore they can't infect other people. You can have them hermetically sealed. Yeah, a lot of things he said are dead on. A lot of things I learned, you know, about the government or how to look into things come from that realm. And people always said, oh, he's just crazy. He's just a nut, blah, blah, blah. Well, who's the nut now? Okay. A friend of mine sent me a meme that was like your conspiracy theories. And then it's like Boomhauer, or no. Dale Gribble doing Salt Bay. And it's like, told you, bitch. And I was like, that's the best thing I've ever seen, because, you know, I've been throwing out these theories for many years. Everybody's like, nope, Scarlet, you're crazy. We don't want to listen to you. You're always coming up with these crazy ideas. None of this crap ever happens. And yet here we are. No. Yeah, I was right. Let's see what we've got. So obviously we've got a lot of Super Tuesday news. We'll see. Seems like Biden got quite a few states. Bernie got California, Colorado, Utah, and Vermont. So that's interesting. Maine's vaccination law survived a referendum vote, which I thought was interesting. WHO says fatality rate higher than they thought, which, like I said, goes back to Dr. Harry Chen on Twitter, who was saying that from day one. Nursing home residents held hostage in rooms. Patients' chilling account of what disease feels like. That woman was interesting. She was from England, and she was talking about like the first 5 days she felt fine, and then it was like she could like hardly breathe, and she was having, you know, like trouble breathing. And then, you know, eventually now like she's recovered now, but she said she just remembers everything being so laborious to just move or function or breathe. And she said that was probably the worst situation about it all. Let's see what we've got here. Mystery objects simultaneously emerge again at secret Air Force Base. Where's this at? At Tonopah Airport. In December, the war zone reported on a bizarre instance where the Planet Labs satellite imagery showed a dozen mystery objects sitting in front of or poking out of one of the rows of hangars at the secretive Tonopah Test Range Airport. After reviewing years of daily imagery from Planet Labs, such as an event appeared unprecedented. Since the December 6th occurrence, it hasn't happened again. That is until Monday, March 2nd. For information on the first sighting of this kind, as well as critical background information, including historical context about Tonopah Test Range Airport and its very unique tenants, make sure to read our past report. In imagery, we obtained exclusively from Planet Labs, a 3-meter resolution PlanetScope imaging satellite picked up what to be a number of objects sitting in front of, or at least poking out of, the same dozen hangars as before. Where is this? I need to find out where this Tonopah Air Test Range Air Base is. Where is it? It's in America? Interesting. We'll have to catch on that. Yeah, Nevada. That's interesting. So this is by like, because I saw them reference Janet ramp, and I was like, oh, Janet flies from Las Vegas to like Area 51. Interesting. You know, people have been talking about, you know, will we see some activity like Project Blue Book? Remember the time that we're in right now. Biblically, we're having a lot of things that are meeting up, right? So biblically, we have a plague going on, right? There's literally bubonic plague happening in China right now. Those reports have been increasing over the last few months. We have locust swarm in China. We have like African swine flu. We have bird flu. We have lots of things happening in China, which those four things alone make you think, well, we have blood red rivers that happened in Turkey. We have, you know, the red heifer was born 2 years ago in Israel. We have people talking about this year for Passover that they have built for the third temple an altar that is the biblical, or I guess like the Torah, you know, measurements, old biblical measurements for doing a sacrifice of a lamb that they will be doing at the base of where the third temple is supposed to be built in Israel for Passover. Also biblical. You know, when we know that when the third temple is built, that the Lord is not too far behind. So that's something to be concerned about at the same time. You know, is it done by design so they can get the results that they want? Or are we following biblical prophecy? That's a big question to ask. We don't know the answer. But with all that going on, I think it's something that we need to still be paying attention to for the future. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about before we get out of here tonight was the tornadoes in Tennessee. You know, there are over 77 potential people missing right now in Tennessee. And I have an article coming out of AP, and I will share that with you guys. Because I think it's important, because these tornadoes, and you know, it was interesting because the National Weather Service just came out with an article yesterday, I believe it was, or Monday, or Sunday, last 3 days, that said this year's tornado season would be ramped up, and we would probably see a 47% increase in tornadoes than what we've seen in previous years. And that honestly, there was I think 47% chance of seeing over 537 tornadoes in this spring season. And with the weather looking like for the next 3 weeks all around the country, we're going to have above average temperatures. We might want to hold on, because this also affects our coronavirus preparations. You know, all these people in Tennessee now who probably could have been preparing for coronavirus or whatever else, now their stockpiles are gone. Your supplies are gone. Everything you own is gone. You have no food, you have no water, you have no electricity, you have nothing. That's a big deal. And I really feel for the people of Tennessee right now, because now while they're trying to tell you to stay away from people, you have to be real close quarters with people. Where usually that's not a big issue. But right now, while there's a nationwide outbreak of coronavirus, probably not the best idea to be staying in a shelter with other people, but you don't have a choice right now. So what do you do? A lot of those supplies, like I said, food, water, and everything else that you probably were saving for coronavirus, now you feel compelled to give to other people because people have absolutely nothing. This is going to be a trying time for the people of Tennessee, and it'll be interesting to see how people work together also with the threat of coronavirus on their heels. So the death toll in Tennessee climbs to at least 24. We're going to see a lot more if they don't just not admit all the people who are gone. You know, they do that every other natural disaster, every other hurricane, every other tornado, any other thing I've been a part of when we've even been live on air for it, giving the information as it comes out. We know more deaths happen than what they like to even admit. So this number probably, I would probably say just conservatively, 200 people probably died, at least. I'm sure of it. With all the reports I've heard and all the people who are missing and reporting their people missing in Facebook groups, I'm going to almost guarantee that. So Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, Doobie, I pray for him too. Anybody who's in the Nashville area or anywhere in that, Middle Tennessee range, they've gotten some serious things to contend with right now. So rescuers searched through shattered Tennessee neighborhoods for bodies Tuesday, less than a day after tornadoes ripped across Nashville and other parts of the state as families slept. At least 24 people were killed, some in their beds, authorities said. The twisters that struck in the hours after midnight shredded more than 140 buildings and buried people in piles of rubble and wrecked basements. The storms moved so quickly that people in their path could not flee to safer areas. It hit so fast, a lot of folks didn't have time to take shelter, Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter said. Many of these folks were sleeping. Yeah, there was a guy that I posted a video to, I believe to the Freedom Revolution Network page, where he's like recording in his apartment and he's like looking out the window and he's like, oh, there's a tornado. It's gotta be close. And he's like, oh, gotta go. Ah. And then like, you can tell like it ramped up and like, it was like right by him. And he said he got into a safe place before his building collapsed and that it was a pretty big situation. The governor declared an emergency and sent the National Guard to help with search and rescue efforts. State emergency officials who initially reported at least 25 dead revised the toll to 24 fatalities on Tuesday evening after determining one death counted earlier was not storm related. Now remember, storm related means it actually had to happen during the storm. If you die from a heart attack before, not counted. You die from a heart attack after, not counted. A branch falls off a tree that was loosened during the storm, not counted. So there's really specific like criteria for when they say storm related death. An unspecified number of people were missing. I've heard estimates of like 170 people could be missing. That's why I say maybe 200 could even be dead. The governor declared a national emergency and sent the National Guard to help with search and rescue. Early findings by the National Weather Service survey teams indicated that the damage in Nashville and Wilson County to the east was inflicted by a tornado of at least EF3 intensity. Now, when I was watching local Fox 17 news out of Nashville, they said EF2, that what the National Weather Service said. So which one is it? Because EF2 and EF3 have really different levels of destruction. One twister wrecked homes and businesses across a 10-mile stretch of Nashville that included parts of downtown. It smashed more than 36 buildings, including destroying the tower and stained glass of a historic church. Another tornado damaged more than 100 structures along a 2-mile path of destruction in Putnam County, wiping some homes from their foundations and depositing the wreckage far away. Daybreak revealed landscapes littered with blown down walls and roofs, snapped power lines, and huge broken trees, making many city streets and rural roads impassable. More than a dozen polling stations were also damaged, forcing Super Tuesday voters to wait in long lines at alternative sites. In Putnam County, 80 miles east of Nashville, houses and businesses were completely flattened. In one neighborhood, volunteers found 5 bodies. Neighborhoods and sheriff officers were still looking for 2 more. Leaders authority imposed an 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew in the county and reported 1 looting arrest. Nashville residents walked around on streets and sidewalks littered with debris, and neighborhoods where missing walls and roofs left living rooms and kitchens exposed. Mangled power lines and broken trees came to rest on cars, streets, and piles of rubble. We are resilient and we're going to rebuild, Nashville Mayor John Cooper said. During Governor Bill Lee's tour of Putnam County, homeowners dug through debris, trying to salvage any items not destroyed. One young woman held up a clean green blouse while standing on a second floor of a home that had no roof. President Donald Trump spoke with the governor by phone and pledged federal assistance, the White House said. Trump also announced plans to visit the disaster area on Friday. In Nashville, the Twister's path was mostly north and east of the heart of downtown, spanning most of the city's big tourism draws, the honky-tonks of Broadway, the Grand Ole Opry House, and the storied Ryman Auditorium and Convention Center. Instead, the storm toured through largely African-American areas of Boudreaux and North Nashville. That's too bad. That's too bad, y'all. As well as the neighborhoods transformed by a recent building boom. Germantown and East Nashville are the 2 of the city's trendiest hotspots, with restaurants, music venues, high-end apartment complexes, and rising home prices threatening to drive out longtime residents. The dogs started barking before the sirens went off. They knew it was coming, said Paula Wade of East Nashville. Then we heard the roar. Something made me just sit straight up in bed, and something came through the window right above my head. If I hadn't moved, I would have got a face full of glass. The roof came crashing down on Ronald Baldwin and Harry Nahey in the bedroom of their one-story brick home in East Nashville. We couldn't get out, and so I just kept kicking and kicking until we finally made a hole. The roaring wind woke Evan and Carly Peters, also in East Nashville, but they had no time to reach the relative safety of an interior bathroom. Within about 10 seconds, the house started shaking. I jumped on top of the ground. He jumped on top of me. The ceiling landed on top of him. We're grateful to be alive. With more than a dozen Super Tuesday polling stations in Nashville's Davidson County damaged, voters were sent to other locations, some of them with long lines. Election officials in Putnam County advised voters in 8 precincts with damaged polling locations to vote at the main election office in Cookeville. Hours later, a judge ruled that some Tennessee polls must extend voting hours after 4 Democratic presidential candidates sued to keep the polls open, a Democratic Party spokeswoman said. Lee said he observed numerous examples of people coming together to help one another. In the worst of circumstances, the best of people comes out, and that's what we're seeing. Just as the governor stopped by to tour the devastation in Putnam County, a van of longtime customers at a local eatery who proudly stated they ate there every morning arrived to help to clear debris. In the small town of Baxter, Mike Stevens was awakened when a big tree crashed through the roof of his house. He started cleaning up as soon as the sun rose. He cut up one tree and had help from a neighbor with a backhoe and a man who stopped by with a chainsaw. I only met him once, and he happened to show up while we were out here, he said of his neighbor. And then this other guy, he just happened to stop by. I don't know him. Wayne Stevens, a technician at a local car dealership, had Tuesday off from his job. With no damage to his home, he got in his truck with his chainsaw. He's not related to Mike Stevens and had never met him. He said he only wanted to help as much as he can. And, you know, Tennessee is the volunteer state. So if anywhere you're going to see some activities like that, it'll be there. It's good to see that people are helping one another. That's an amazing thing. You know, people's stories are going to be harrowing. I heard of local Domino's giving out free pizzas to people. I heard of local barbecue places giving away food to free people, local Subways. Anywhere that had food that they could give away, they were giving away, which is a beautiful thing. Because that doesn't happen very often. It does happen a little bit in natural disasters, but not just so openly and freely, where everybody around the neighborhoods were going out to help each other and going to clean up and trying to rebuild. And it's just a beautiful thing to see right now when there could be a lot of chaos. There could be a lot of, you know, arguing and not helping. That, you know, it seems that these southern states who have dealt with these things before lean on each other and do a really good job of, when it comes to being in the clutch, helping their citizens. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And we can all learn a lesson, like I said, right now with the National Weather Service talking about an enhanced tornado season. We need to be prepared. Let's see if I can find that article that talks about the tornado season predictions. Let's see what we can find out. Yeah, experts predict near to above average tornado activity. That was from like 2 weeks ago. That wasn't the one I was thinking of. We can still talk about it. That comes from the Washington Post. They were calling to a near slightly to more active season than average. They said making predictions for this season was particularly challenging. They said that they do it about 4 weeks in advance. And they most recently predicted this new guy, Victor Genesee, a professor of atmospheric science at Northern Illinois University. Last year, he was pretty much dead on. And he's learning how teleconnections and the presence of distant and seemingly tangential atmospheric features can have impacts on weather closer to home. So he's forecasting bouts of severe weather to begin in increasing frequency and intensity during March and April. May looks to be a busy month as well. If the current pattern doesn't change for significantly, we could be up for periods of intense activity followed by shutdowns. Predicting exactly when those busy spurts will line up is a bit more challenging, and it's going to coincide when we're in the sub-seasonal cycle. He alludes to smaller scale, shorter duration atmospheric disturbances that can bolster or inhibit storminess over the lower 48. In past years, there have been larger, more obvious ingredients in place, but not so much more this year. The atmosphere will be a little bit fickle. Last year, it was very obvious when the stars would align. I think usually by March 1st, things become pretty clear. Are there any sort of big players? I think the atmosphere is a big orchestra and all the instruments playing together in an ensemble.
Some years you have instruments playing louder than others and controlling the narrative and the tune. John Allen, a professor of meteorology at Central Michigan University, says the big player is usually from El Nino or La Nina. If you think about how these systems are connected, we're here thinking about a cascade scales, said Allen, discussing the link between large-scale climate systems and the comparatively fleeting nature of tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. El Nino interacts on a scale of several thousands of miles with interactions going through a middleman. Who is the middleman? The jet stream. In order for supercells or rotating thunderstorms and tornadoes to form, two ingredients must be present in the atmosphere: instability and wind shear. The unstable atmosphere caused by vertical temperature contrast results in lifting motion that can give rise to thunderstorms. To get those storms to spin, you need wind shear, a change in wind speed and direction with height. So basically, like the winds are going vertical, then you get the wind shear, and then that turns it vertical, then you get a tornado. And when the jet stream's nearby, there's usually plenty of wind shear present. The jet stream is a swift current of rapidly moving air in the upper atmosphere. Jet stream speeds can occasionally top 150 miles an hour, which we've even heard 350 as of recently, where planes have went along the jet stream and went into Europe super fast. As winds near the ground generally don't approach speeds of that magnitude, there's a significant change of wind speed in the height in the vicinity of the jet stream, generating wind shear. Disturbances embedded within the jet can trigger bouts of severe weather, since jet stream meanderings usually carry cold air aloft. That's a key factor in thunderstorms. The wind shear is imparted by the jet, meanwhile, can encourage storms to rotate. Long-range severe weather forecasts don't start in Tornado Alley. In fact, they don't even start in the United States. The first place to look, the Pacific Ocean. Water temperatures in the tropical Pacific Ocean have enormous bearings on our weather. Water temperatures there fluctuate in response to the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. During El Nino, water temperatures over the eastern equatorial Pacific run anomalously warm. The same seas atypically cool during a La Nina. ENSO, sort of like a pendulum, can swing irregularly between the two states every few years. Knowing about the status of an El Nino or La Nina generally offers insight to how the jet stream will behave. The warm East Pacific waters that occur with El Nino help steer the moisture from the subtropics across the Baja Peninsula and eventually over the northern Gulf of Mexico. That can increase low cloud cover and lower temperatures. Meanwhile, the energized polar jet stream is diverted far to the north, where it's removed from the key zones for severe weather. Without the polar jet's added wind shear, the hail and tornado chances on the Great Plains declined. Allen and his team showed this in 2015. The La Ninas, on the flip side, bring warmer and drier conditions to the southern United States and colder weather to the north. That temperature clash can brew severe storms, and a polar jet lurking nearby can help spin up tornadoes, especially in the eastern plains. This year, however, the ENSO looks to be close to neutral. The ENSO is a dominant mode for most seasonal forecasts. This season, you don't have the main predictor that's pulling the strings. While no dominant ENSO influence, the focus shifts to other features. The more subtle features are a lot more finicky and tougher to predict. Plus, they're more difficult to spot on for a distance. Genesee, however, has his eyes on something. There's a lot of convection anchored near the equatorial international date line, he said, referencing a batch of showers and thunderstorms in the Central Pacific. It's tied to a region of above average water temperatures. If that warm pool continues into the spring, I'd have reason to consider an average to an above average season. The warm pool can influence the position and strength of the jet stream enough to shape the lower 48 severe weather season. The positioning of the jet stream across the U.S. is vital for springtime severe weather's frequency. Genesee and Allen alike hope these predictions will help emergency managers better plan and prepare for dangerous bouts of severe weather. FEMA could benefit in moving around assets or resources, said Genesee, on the benefits of seasonal tornado forecasts. Insurance company could model potential losses. These forecasts are targeted towards educators, administrators, emergency managers, and the folks that are spreading the message and creating a weather-ready nation. So very interesting on that. So I do believe, one tornado can't necessarily say that, but, for it being the beginning of March, it's pretty early to have something. So it's very, very interesting what's going on. We'll see what happens with this season this year, because like I said, it just comes into play with coronavirus, because like I said, there are people right now who are in shelters
and being put closely together, all because, you know, of these tornadoes. And then what if people do have coronavirus? There's not much they can do. So hopefully they will start trying to find, you know, hopefully they can find these people. TEMA has a list of places that you can go, and if you are in the affected areas, you can check that out. And TEMA is the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. So, you know, it was a really interesting tornado. They believe there was 1, 2, 3, 4 tornadoes that were EF2, EF3 in nature. And they said Tennessee in general has seen 6 EF4 and 12 EF3 tornadoes in March since 1950, though none have been near Nashville, based on AccuWeather analysis of Storm Prediction Center data. The National Weather Service in Nashville reports that their storm surveys show EF2 and EF3 damage in multiple areas. They're not sure if the damage is from the same tornado or multiple. And just for a reminder, EF2 is 125 miles an hour. They believe that the East Nashville 5 Points tornado was an EF3 at 136 to 140. The Donaldson was 160 to 165 at an EF3. And Mount Juliet was the EF3 at 155 to 160. So potentially all from the same tornado, but they don't know for sure yet. We're going to find out about that more as time goes on. I highly recommend people go watch the local Nashville news. Just type in your search bar, local Nashville news. You can kind of get a little bit more information than what you're going to get from the national news right now, because like I said, the only thing you're going to hear about right now is Super Tuesday and probably coronavirus, which is unfortunate for the people of Tennessee. People need to know what's going on. And it's concerning. Oh, Honeywell builds world's most powerful quantum computer. That's interesting. It will share more details on it sometime in the next 3 months. They said they will unveil a quantum computer that's twice as powerful as any other current device. They claim that last year, the computer Google claimed it had 53 qubits, but Honeywell is instead using a metric quantum volume to talk up the capabilities of its machine. IBM coined the term, and here how it defines. Quantum volume takes into account the number of qubits, connectivity, gate and measurement errors, material improvements to underlying physical hardware, such as increases in coherence times, reduction of device crosstalk, and software circuit compiler efficiency can point to measurable programs in quantum volume as long as all improvements happen at a similar pace. The point here is that quantum volume attempts to measure the performance of a computer by taking a holistic view of its different parts. Raw qubits are important in the calculation, but so is how they interact. For instance, the lower error rate those qubits generate, the better the score. Ultimately, however, the larger the quantum volume value, the more complex problems the computer can solve. Honeywell claims its upcoming computer will have a quantum volume of at least 64. To put that number in perspective, IBM recently announced a 28-qubit computer that had a quantum volume of 32. The company was able to achieve this feat in parts to a breakthrough it made in 2015 when it developed a technology that uses lasers to trap electrically charged atoms in a superposition state. Exciting as Honeywell's achievement is, it's probably best not to get excited until the company properly details the computer. Last year, Google generated conflicting amounts of hype and controversy when it announced it achieved quantum supremacy. IBM in particular called the company's claim indefensible based on Google built Sycamore to solve one specific equation. That said, it appears most companies are at least optimistic about what Honeywell's managed to do. For instance, IBM research arm told Protocol, Honeywell's paper shows exciting new progress for programmable trapped ion quantum systems. The company has gained the Microsoft seal of approval, with the two announcing a partnership that will give Azure clients access to Honeywell's quantum computer. Now that's very interesting. I just have a lot of personal connections with Honeywell. So I find it interesting that they're building the quantum computer. They also build a lot of our planes. They also build a lot of our military stuff. They build a lot of our aerospace equipment. So very interesting that they are the ones who've decided to put their hat in the ring with quantum computing. Not out of their realm of expertise, but a little bit surprising that they would go that route. but that's fascinating. So we'll see. I'm going to get out of here tonight because it's about that time. And we've almost been on here for 3 hours. 3 hours is usually my time limit. You know, Ron does a little bit shorter, but I'm filling in for Ron and I'm the boss. So I get to do what I want, right? So with that being said, we'll have more information for you guys tomorrow about the Tennessee tornadoes. If we hear any increased death rates, we'll be keeping you updated about coronavirus, what we hear, what we know, what we've talked about, as well as any other news that pops up at the time, right? We're always here for you guys. If something else happens in the middle of the night, I will come back on and fill you guys in with all the details. Please check out our website and please check out our social forum. Enter in for the contest by emailing contest@freedomrevolutionnetwork.com. Put in the subject line entry 72-hour kit or 72-hour kit or something so that I know that you're entering for this. Make sure you join the social network. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Do whatever you can to get the word out about our shows here. Without you, we can't have any programs, and it wouldn't be the Freedom Revolution Network trying to bring forth a freedom revolution through information, news, and activism. And so we hope for you guys to be more involved with that as the months and the years go by, especially with something like this. There are ways that we could make community groups that could help us, you know, have like neighborhood watch, but similar, that Ron and I have been wanting to bring up to you guys, that maybe we could have, you know, EMA, you know, city or state captains. And that way we could start trying to get people together just to be able to disseminate information, talk about how to make things and what to use to get our bodies healthy, how we're going to move forward during this, what the world could look like if things keep happening the way they are. Because I think that the way Ron and I have been bringing up the what ifs are good, because some of the things have already happened. And so if we can just keep staying on top of what's going on and feel like we have some control of our situations, it will feel less daunting to have to make these decisions as time goes on. Hopefully Ron will be better tomorrow night and we'll be back with Emergency Management Associates. I sure hope so. We send all our love to Ron for him to get better and for him to feel well. We hate to see this, but he finally is now starting to turn the corner, resting more. I believe he had gotten even some medication. So now he'll probably start getting back on the mend and on his way back to feeling better. So send your prayers to Ron. Send your prayers to Red. Send your prayers to the whole network. We appreciate every good thought and good juju you put out for here. You guys really don't understand how I appreciate all of you. You guys appreciate everything that we do. We see it. You guys tell us, you let us know, and it makes us feel really good to have all of you guys here. So with that being said, from the land of 10,000 lakes, good night, universe.